Taking risks is a necessary evil in motor racing. Sometimes they don't pay off.
I don't think this car's got another lap in it.
You can make it. Save every drop.
And sometimes they do.
Turn on the override switch. Turn on the override switch.
They have made it. Can you believe it? The win was the result of strategic gambling that made the Ruby Tuesday team the 5th different winner in as many rounds. But now, for the first time since the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the teams will roll the dice for a lot longer. The series switches back to endurance mode. After several separate rounds, the Daytona prototypes and GT cars reunite on one of North America's most historic racetracks. It's the 6 hours of the Glen at Watkins Glen, and it's live, now on speed. When you think of iconic sports car racing venues, Watkins Glen is right up there. This historic upstate New York venue again welcomes the Rolex Sports Car Series for round 6, the Sahlen's 6 hours of the Glen. Hi folks, Lee Diffie and Calvin Fish with you here, and welcome to Speed's live coverage of this famed event. If you're a sports car racing fan, well, we're really getting into the meat of the season. This is a wonderful time. 3 great weeks coming up. We're here. Next week we're in Le Mans. Then we come back to Mid-Ohio for the Rolex Series. It's a great time of the year. And Calvin, when we look at the Rolex Series for this year, this is the first time since Homestead back in March we've got Daytona prototypes and GT cars on the track at the one time. But the news is in DPs, 5 different winners from as many events. Will we get 6 today?
It's certainly possible, Lee. Look no further than Krone Racing. They're the 2-time defending champions here in the 6 hour. There's too much speed in the cockpit of the 75 car. There's too much talent down on pit road to keep those guys out of victory circle too much longer. But think about some other squads as well. The 58 machine, they're on a roll recently. 3rd place at VIR, 4th place at Laguna. They're knocking on the door. And the dark horse for today, the Samex Racing entry. Patrick Carpentier is joined by Thomas Enger, 2 very fast drivers.
One of the best names in sports car racing is Wayne Taylor. Of course, he's now a team principal. He's back in the driving seat in the cockpit. Is he up for it?
He's definitely up for it. He wants this one really badly. He's won all of the big ones. He's won at Le Mans. He's won the Petite Le Mans. He's won the 24 Hours of Daytona. This one has eluded him. But this is a tough weekend for the SunTrust boys. They're coming off their worst finish of the season at Laguna. Max Angelelli had that off, damage to the race car down in 15th spot, lost the championship lead. They come in here with a new co-driver. Jonathan Cochet joins the squad for the first time. It's going to be tough for those boys to gel quickly enough to be a real factor here today for the win.
Let me throw this one at you. If we don't get our 6th different winner, who's likely to be the first repeat winner?
It has to be the number 99 Gainsco squad. They are fast week in, week out. They came out of the box strong at Daytona with the pole position. They won in Mexico, but the little problems in pit lane, the little problems on the racetrack really stopped those guys from getting a second victory. If they get on a roll, they can certainly be a championship contender as well.
Yeah, for sure. Spirits are high at the Gainsco squad, and Brian Till's right in the middle of it.
Well, Lee, you and Calvin talking about how fast the 99 car has been. It has started from the front row every race this season. 3 pole positions, 2 for Alex Gurney, 1 for this man, John Fogerty. But, John, mistakes behind pit wall, mistakes from the cockpit as well. So Bob had a conversation with you guys how to eliminate those mistakes and get you back to victory lane.
Yeah, you know, the number 99 Gainsco Auto Insurance car has been real fast all year, and the crew has been doing a really good job all year. Bob's certainly he's a fair, but he's a pretty intent on winning. So he's sat us down and told us how it is, how it needs to be, and we all know what we need to do to win, and everybody's made mistakes, but everybody wants to win just as badly as Bob. So we're all on the same page, but for sure, you know, we need to eliminate those mistakes and keep it going. We're real happy to be starting up front again, and it looks like it's going to be a good race. 6 hours, but a beautiful day for racing.
Well, we'll see if these guys can find victory lane again. They've got the speed. It's just a matter of now of turning that speed back into victory, Lee.
Yeah, the word mentioned there, Brian, quite often was a mistake, and that's what Max Angelelli made at Laguna Seca. That's why Scott Pruitt, courtesy of his brilliant second a couple of weeks ago, is back in the lead of this championship to the tune of 5 points. But look how tight it is. What if Colin Brown and Max Pappas can pick up a win today? That would do wonders for their championship hopes. We flip it over to GT. This has been an electrifying class in 2007. 172 points. You got the speed source duo of Ham and Tremblay right there with Dirk Werner of Farnbacher Lowells, and then Collins and Edwards still in search of their first victory of this year. Well, speaking of wins at Watkins Glen, Dorsey Schrader has had 2 of them. I know you enjoyed those. We've been enjoying the GT class this year. How do you see this one playing out over 6 hours?
Well, if you look at the history of endurance racing here at Watkins Glen, the name that pops up is Porsche. And of course, the last 2 races in a row that were run here were won by a Porsche. So don't count them out in a long distance race like this. Now, Mazda was the car to beat early on, but we saw at Lime Rock it had some difficulty. We theorized that the engine does not make much torque, so every time it got to the uphill, it lost ground. Well, Watkins Glen, 2 very long uphill straightaways, and they're longer, so I think the Mazda boys are in for a tough day.
There's a lot of talk about Pontiac coming into this year. Of course, last year was a stellar year with the GTOR. Of course, the GXPR now, the new car. And Lime Rock, well, finally, the monkey was off their back.
Well, we talked about the car being the right car for Lime Rock because of the high-speed nature of the place, the corners. Let me explain that a little bit more. The Pontiac has the longest wheelbase of any car racing in GT. Now, what a long wheelbase does is it gives you a lot of stability in high-speed cornering. Watkins Glen is all high-speed cornering. So if there's a car that can knock Porsche off the throne, watch out for that Pontiac.
Yeah, Pontiac are looking to go back-to-back wins. Chris Neville will tell us if they can.
Lee, the GT Championship last year was all about consistency, and this year we're seeing the consistency out of the 07 team. It is the only car that has finished all the races in the top 10. Kelly, the team finally broke through, got the win at Lime Rock with the 06, but you and Paul Edwards still not in the winner's column. How much pressure is there on you and Paul to get that car, now that it's a proven winner, in winner's circle?
Well, the most pressure that's being put on us right now is actually Paul and I are putting the pressure on ourselves. Pontiac, General Motors, they want a Pontiac to win whenever they can. It's good that we have fast teammates. At the last race, we made mistakes. We had penalties and flat tires, and they were there to get the win. So we're happy for the team. We're looking for manufacturers' championship points. But, yes, Paul and I want to win, and I think the pressure is on us with he and I to get the job done today.
Well, the GT competition is definitely deep. No stronger than right next to them on the front row, where there is a Porsche driven by Wolf Hensler, who's won this race the past 2 years. Lee?
It's going to be a fascinating day, and as a special tribute to the late Bob Snodgrass, the Brumos Porsches, the 58 and 59, lead the field out. Of course, Bob grew up in this region of upstate New York. What a super day we've got for you on Speed. We're with you live through till 1 p.m. Eastern, and then we change it up a few gears. Formula One qualifying from Montreal. We look forward to that, and then we return to the Glen right through until post-race 5:30 p.m., bringing you this historic, this famed event, the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen, live when we come back. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. By Ruby Tuesday, simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. And powered by Pontiac and the 260 horsepower Solstice GXP. We're back. We're almost ready to go racing. Before we get there, let's tell you a little about the playground with the Lexus track map. Dorse?
Of course, we're running Watkins Glen this weekend on the long course, 3.4 miles around 11 corners. And one of the best overtaking places is down here into turn 1, the brake zone. Now, in the past, that's been a really hard thing to do because it was very rough. See here, all brand new pavement from the turn in, the initial ending of the brake zone, all the way through the apex, brand new asphalt. Now, what that will do is allow the cars to get in there with a little bit more speed, a little bit more stability. As they climb up through turn 2 and 3, the S's, they go through the inner loop, turn 4. You come off the old number 5 corner and down the hill towards 6. Now, this is an area right through here where the short course that NASCAR uses cuts through. And we'll take a look at what that looks like. Here's off of the inner loop as it come down the hill through this old turn 5, which is now actually called turn 8. They go down through the corner here. This is all new asphalt, and they join on to the long course right around the corner here. All new asphalt through this area, turn 8, turn 9, turn all the way into 10. That's going to give huge speed through that corner right there.
So there you go. Set to go. Nicely formed on the Ruby Tuesday starting grid, and the green flag flies. The 6 hours of the Glen is underway. Alex Gurney inside in the red. Look at Patrick Long in the Ruby Tuesday Porsche inside.
Whoa, 3 abreast there. Angelelli tried to squeeze Pruitt. He does. Pruitt's wide.
Frantic start. And Gurney has been able to escape an Orland. Aggressive too from the get-go. Forces a move on Pruitt.
Colin Brown, we believe, is the lead green car there, up to 4th spot. So Pruitt really Didn't get the start he was looking for.
Officials say good, clean start for the Daytona prototypes. Now here comes the GT field with Paul Edwards in the Pontiac GXPR leading them. He gets pressured on the inside big time, but holds strong.
He had to defend, and as a result of the defense, he loses the lead to the portion of the outside.
We also saw on the other side of the screen there, Patrick Long taking a spin in the 23 machine. We're on board with Angelelli on the left.
Frustration here, and who is that? Is that
That is
Pruitt?
Long.
Who's the other car, though?
I think it is Pruitt. They're in the gravel trap. That's going to be a full course yellow before the end of the first lap.
Well, you have to think that maybe Pruitt just got involved after Long's spin, taking evasive action. There's a gravel trap right there. That is not the start that the championship leader needed, Lee.
This is big. This is big.
6-hour race does not go one green lap.
Now, I was watching with much interest as Pruitt get out. Try and get some help. Here's the replay.
Well, they're both backwards and around already. This is the inner loop. You got to wonder whatever happened prior to this shot, because both cars had already spun, Calvin.
Surprised at the aggressive nature. Here we go, on board with Pat Long.
Boy, he got bumped. You see how quickly that car turned? He didn't just spin. Somebody, and it wasn't Scott, I don't think.
And it wasn't Pruitt, no.
No, I think he got helped in there.
Could have been Angelelli. Angelelli had a strong start, and Patrick was just in front of him, so Ruby Tuesday boys coming off that victory at Laguna, trying to get back in this championship chase.
This hurts Scott Pruitt, championship leader, former winner of this event, enormous experience at Watkins Glen in a variety of categories. And this is crushing for his chances. Now remember, pit stop within the first 45 minutes.
We had that 45-minute rule, which a lot of people weren't sure we needed for a 6-hour event. It certainly has a lot of strategy you have to really think about in a sprint race. But right now, all of the teams have to pit before the 45-minute mark. The 76 car we knew had clutch problems, Dorsey. Here we see it again with the crew trying to bump start it.
This is going to kill them over a 6-hour. Every time they come in, if they got to push that car, it's going to hurt them.
More on the 23, Chris Neville.
Lee just checked in with Ruby Tuesday. They said Pat Long radioed to them. He did not think that he had contact on the racetrack, but he felt that a tire went down before he went into the bus stop, and that's what put him in the gravel trap.
Well, that could be. I mean, whatever happened. Oh, look at this. Right front tire, Calvin, is not turning at all. That's probably from stones that are caught between the caliper and the rotor. That's not good.
Now that thing will be down to a paper bag by the time he gets that bag and it sits there.
He needs to go on the NASCAR short course here. See if he does. He's going to lose a lap by doing, but he needs to get back.
This is the 07 Pontiac of Paul Edwards, has just left pit lane. And the 70 Speed Source Mazda is released. So, you wouldn't have predicted that at the start of the 6-hour, would you? Two of the key DP contenders.
Well, I'll tell you, if Pat Long did not go on the short course, what's going to happen, Calvin, is he's going to flat spot and wear that tire out. There's Pruitt. He's out and going. You lose a lap if you take the shortcut. However, if he doesn't take the shortcut and he blows the tire out, he can do suspension damage, and it will be more than one lap to repair that.
Yeah, it's a tough call for him right now, though, because you don't want to go down an additional lap. They're probably already down a lap. Unsure where the pace car is right now in relation to these two cars that had the problem. But Scotty Pruitt hopefully has a healthy race car. I'm not sure that he made contact with the 23 car when he went into the gravel. It looked like he just spun in there by himself. Hopefully he has a healthy race car.
All right, here it is again on board with Long. Take a look how far back Angelelli is and have a listen too.
Hear anything? No, there's no contact.
See, Angelelli's too far back for that to be contact there.
Well, Pat Long saying he had a flat tire. He thought he had a punctured tire that went flat as he turned in.
Another solid qualifying effort from the Ruby Tuesday boys.
Calvin,
third.
Obviously, he didn't take the shortcut. He opted to go around. Now all the stones are gone. The wheel's rolling again.
Yeah, I think you called it correctly there, Dorset. Just jammed up with the stones in the caliper.
Under caution, we'll make the most of it. Squeeze in a commercial break. Stay with us. You're live on Speed.
Go, go, go.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen. You're watching Scott Pruitt, championship leader, already a lap down, just released from pit lane. And now the catch-up game begins. Brian?
Guys, I had just checked with Tim Keene just before the start of the race about the car, the mileage, and the setup, and he said they were running a very low downforce. And I wonder, as cool as it is right now, no tire temperature, no track temperature, low downforce, going into the bus stop the first time, did Scott just lose it on his own, just not having the temperature in the tires yet?
No, actually, Brian, it wasn't Scott who lost it. It was Pat Long. And you're right about the fact that it's very cold. Also, it rained heavily all night. This is a green racetrack, no rubber down. I think it caught Pat Long and then 23 off. Pruitt was evasive spinning.
Well, let's show a different replay, boys. This is from Max Angelelli's SunTrust Pontiac Riley. Take a look at this. Pat Long up ahead.
Now you can see clearly they're not close enough to make any contact. Here's Pat going in. He gets loose on the entry, overcorrects. And that's cold tires, cold racetrack, Calvin.
It was. He was using the curb there as you normally do, but he's already loose. It looked like as he turned in. Maybe he was feeling some with the car. He said he felt he had a flat tire. They looked like they had pressure when he was rolling out the gravel trap, but maybe he lost a few pounds of pressure, which is critical.
I mean, that's half of a lap. It's only actually 2 corners between where they got the green. And speaking of green, here we go.
Yeah, let's do it. Alex Gurney out in front. Bill Auberlen already has the Luggage Express BMW up to second. And Mamo Gidley, great job in the Doran, is up to third.
Well, we've got to think about which of these guys did pit. We see a little bit of smoke there from the 05 machine with Bill Auberlen behind the wheel. Mamo Gidley was extremely fast in this Doran in the warm-up this morning, so he is showing some speed here on race day.
Combining with Guy Cosmo, he takes a look in the inside of Auberlen, nowhere near close enough at the inner loop. So it's Gidley and Cosmo. Then running in 4th place is Bert Frizzell in the AIM Autosport Lexus. Both Frizzell brothers, Bert and Brian, teamed up with Mark Wilkins, the threesome in that car.
That team has really impressed me this year. They came out the box strong at Daytona with a top 5 finish. David Empringham sharing the driving duties here, and this weekend we've got both of the Frizzell brothers along with young Mark Wilkins, and those boys have been doing a tremendous job.
And Calvin, this team has finally had a chance to finally test that car just a couple weeks ago at Mid-Ohio. All year long, they've just been trying to get to the racetrack. They finally had a little bit of a break between Laguna Seca and here. They got to Mid-Ohio, did a test for 2 days, and they really feel like they're learning the setup on that Riley. The drivers just so happy the team had that chance, and the car's really showing speed today.
And they're using that dynamic shock system. I spoke to Bill Auberlen, and those two teams actually, Siegel Sport and also the AIM Motorsport team, are kind of sharing information on the shock setup, and he said those boys learned something, they've given it to us, we've made an improvement on our car as well.
So that's how they stand in Daytona Prototypes GT. It's Racer's Edge Pontiac with Lawson Aschenbach out in front. He and Drew Stavely teamed up this weekend, and many people are tipping that will be a strong combination as 3rd place. The 10 moves back up just past Shane Lewis. That was in fact inside the top 5, wasn't quite for 3rd just yet.
We talked about that 30 Pontiac there. You see it. That is going to be a really, really tough car. It's a good driver lineup, and the car showed so well when it last week went out and led for quite a while.
Very impressed with that team as well. They're not the factory team like the Banner Racing boys, but they're getting a lot of support from those guys. We understand that those guys can get on the phone to the factory and ask any questions they want about setup and just some direction as they explore some of these tracks for the first time.
And Calvin, the team just feels so strong after they came off that finish at Lime Rock. And the biggest thing they're dealing with right now is just driver inconsistency. Just about every weekend they've had a different driver pairing in that car. It looks like it's going to continue that way for the rest of the season. At least that's what they're seeing right now. So right now it's just trying to get some drivers in there that understand the car, that can work together. But if you're constantly switching new drivers in and out, that's something you're probably just not going to get over the course of a season.
That's a shame. It really is, because that car and that team seems to have the potential to be running for the championship. But if you keep filtering drivers in and out, it's not going to be 100% effort.
Andy Pilgrim sits second. Look who's in third. Dirk Werner for Farnbacher Lols, currently tied for the lead of this GT championship. Brian.
Lee checked in with Farnbacher Lols, and they said earlier this weekend if Dirk Werner is to win this championship, the key to his championship is not the 87, it is the 85. They really feel like Dominic Farnbacher and Lee Keene need to step up and take points away from the other teams, especially the Mazda and the Pontiac guys, if Dirk Werner is to win the championship. It's all about as many points as not only as you can gather, but as many points as your teammates can take away from the other guys. The key to them, the 85.
Just tucked in behind Dirk Werner was Wolf Hensler, a two-time winner here. So Hensler's in the hunt. Meanwhile, we rejoin this battle between Mamo Gidley and Bert Frizzell.
Bert looking pretty racy right now early on, wanting to get by.
He really is, and Mamo Gidley had a disappointing qualifying session. Just all sorts of drama with that car. They had some electronic woes with the car. They plugged in the laptop during the session, which is a no-no. Then they forced to park it. So Gidley qualified way down the order, but I think he's maybe one of the cars that has not stopped yet. And we do have that 45-minute rule in place, which means all of these cars have to make a pit stop, stopping in their pit box. Doesn't have to necessarily do service, but has to stop before the 45-minute mark today. And I think we saw some of the teams that are running at the front of the pack right now not do that yet.
Red Bull, Porsche Riley of Darren Law leads Thomas Enger. Wonderful to have Thomas back in the Daytona prototypes. He has had a very busy schedule with his commitments for the Le Mans 24-hour. That was last weekend, of course, the test weekend. He's come back to the United States to do here, and then, of course, flies straight out to do the 24-hour in France immediately after this event, and all the while recovering from that horrific accident in the American Le Mans Series at St. Petersburg, where he shattered his elbow and various other injuries. Boy, he's a quick healer, and he's straight back into it here in the Rolex Sports Car Series. So great to have Enger here.
You know what I'm seeing by looking at these shots on the track is that the rubber is pretty much all washed away from last night's torrential downpour. Normally, these are pretty big black areas where you come off the corner. So I'd say the grip level right now is considerably different. Now, yesterday was 92 degrees. Right now, it's probably maybe 70 out there.
Nice move there. Pretty basic. Inside. Good stuff. That was Colin Brown on Shane Lewis.
Shane Lewis is one of the cars we're now getting confirmation from Race Control. The 3 car, the 77 and the 61 of the current lead pack did not pit yet. So that's why they were shuffled up the order. Back to the front of GT. Looked like a change for second spot.
Certainly is. Dirk Werner gets by Andy Pilgrim. And there's a talking point too. The Pontiac team's running split strategy. The 07 of Paul Edwards, Kelly Collins, that stays as is, but Andy Pilgrim, of course, the third driver in the most recent race-winning car.
Gotta watch that right there, Calvin. You see as the car goes over that curb.
Oh, Doss, look at this.
This is tight.
You don't want to go side by side there.
Wolf Hensler has won this 6 hours the last 2 years running. Last year with Tafel Racing, and then with the Autometrics team back in 05. He is exceptionally fast here. One of the problems with the Tafel Racing squad recently, though, is tyre wear. They seem to run out of tyres a little bit earlier than some of the other cars. They're trying to correct that this weekend.
Like what I was saying down there in turn 1 where you saw the car go over the curbing. If you go all 4 wheels to the other side of that, you'll get a warning. If you continually do it, however, you will get a penalty to come in.
How close is this? Paul Edwards, who drove a storming final stint at Lime Rock Park, is on it here. He's trying to get by Wolf Hensler. Do you think he enjoyed seeing the sister 06 car win at Lime Rock? Not at all. He wants he and Kelly Collins to enjoy victory in this banner racing Pontiac.
And this is one of the hills you got to climb. I was talking about at the open of the show. That's directly uphill, and you would think the Pontiac possibly could get a little edge here. Let's watch for the brake zone.
Calvin raised the issue there of tyre wear with the Tafel Porsches. Chris, you got more on that?
Yeah, Lee, talking with Tony Dow, who's really in charge of those cars every weekend, he said, you know, the past few weekends with what we're doing in American Le Mans and then me not being healthy, I haven't been at the racetrack since VIR. And we talked to them there, you know, is there potential that we're going to see some dilution in the team because of what you're doing in American Le Mans? And they said no. Now, talking to him this weekend, he did admit that they have been a little bit thin, and with him not being at the racetrack because he wasn't feeling well, they just need to get the team back on track. He thinks they're back on track. He thinks they have a good setup that can hopefully put that car back in victory lane. It was so strong last year, but this year, victory lane has just eluded them.
Paul Edwards is growing impatient. Watch this. Dives to the inside, turn 1. Does Hensler let him through? He has to.
He got that set up off of turn 11. He really got the better shot off of turn 11, which is what you do here, and he rode the draft all the way down to turn 1 and then put it where it needed to be.
Beautiful move by Paul Edwards there. He's really starting to find a rhythm with this race car, even though he didn't get the win or the result he was looking for at Lime Rock. He was the fastest man on the racetrack in the closing lap. So Wolf Hensler will try and respond, but right now, Edwards up to 4th.
Look out, Andy Pilgrim. Here comes your teammate. We'll update you on the other side of this when we come back. Meanwhile, up front, Alex Gurney has a 7-second lead. It's always wonderful to return to Watkins Glen. Not only is it a scenic place, but it's one of North America's most historic racetracks. Almost 60 years ago, Cameron Argetsinger convinced the local Chamber of Commerce to run a road race through the town of Watkins Glen. And over that period of time, there's been 4 variations to the track that's featured everything from Formula One to NASCAR to IndyCars and Can-Am, featuring legendary drivers like Sir Jackie Stewart, Rick Mears, Richard Petty, and even our own Hurley Haywood, who enjoyed his first professional victory here.
This is just a great racetrack to run on, and I was talking to Richard Westbrook, who's an Englishman running this track for the first time this weekend. He said we have nothing like this in England anymore. It really reminds me of Spa. But here we're looking at the leader, the Gainesville number 99, with Alex Gurney carving his way through traffic.
Fancy you talking to Englishmen. What was that all about?
Alex Gurney's running lap times, I got to tell you, so fast. He is just putting it down on this field. But in a way, you know, Calvin, if I was in a car capable, I'd like to pull away from all these other guys too. It's a safer area to run in.
Well, you get in a rhythm as well, Dorsey. If you start running all weekend long and suddenly in race mode, you got to back it off a little bit. You kind of get out of your game a little bit. They have had exceptional pace every session. They've topped the time charts, big margin over everyone in qualifying. And right now, Gurney's been running lap times over a second faster than the rest of the field. They've got to keep it going.
Too early to say this, but is it theirs to lose?
I think so. I mean, they have shown the speed all season long, but they seem to get in their own way at times. But this weekend, I've never seen them have the advantage they've had before.
It's too early to say it, but you said it anyway, you know.
Exactly.
It's your fault. If it goes wrong, I'm telling them.
We're riding with Max Angelelli. He's hunting down Mamo Gidley in the Kodak Doran. And this is the fight for 4th. So it's Gurney, Oberlin, Gidley, Angelelli, Bert Frizzell 5, Darren Law 6, Engus 7. Brown is 8, Oswaldo Negri 9, and Ian James in the top 10 for Mike Shank Racing.
Spoke to Guy Cosmo, who's sharing the car with Mamo Gidley here this weekend, and he said we're just really fighting with the car. The car's a little bit too loose on entry. He said I can deal with it a little bit better than Mamo because I kind of have a more gentle turn into the corner. Mamo likes to just go up to the corner like a go-kart and turn it in quick. You're losing the rear end. So that's what they've been fighting for the last couple of races.
Look at this coming up on traffic. And remember the point we made at the top of the show. They're getting used to that again because they've raced for the past 3 months in separate classes. Daytona prototype only races, GT only races. The last time we did this was back in the middle of March at Homestead, Miami Speedway.
That's a very good point, Lee. I mean, you get out of the rhythm. Calvin was talking about rhythm, but you also catch a rhythm with these slower cars. You have to start looking at that aspect of it. You know, where am I going to catch him? How can I get it through cleanly without slowing my overall lap time down?
Here we see Ford Power versus Pontiac. We have a new GT leader as we see action down in turn 1. Angelelli takes the spot.
That's his signature series right there. Max the Axe gets it done under braking, and that's the prime out-braking maneuver.
He's going to keep it cautious, though, this weekend. I spoke to him earlier this weekend, and he knows that he made an error, that he made a mistake at Laguna Seca that was very, very costly in terms of championship points and an outright result. Brian, tell us more about Mamo Gidley.
Lee just checked in with Kevin Doran. You guys talking about that car being loose. He said they made some changes in the warm-up this morning, made some changes to the front end, and actually settled the rear end down a little bit. Calvin, you and Dorsey can probably shine a little more light on that, but that car much more stable now. They think they've got a car that they can run with.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about Kevin Doran. His cars always run here, and it's not just this car. I mean, every car he's ever fielded at Watkins Glen, for some reason, is always good here.
Certain teams, just like a golfer going to a certain golf course, they just suited to it. They just find the setup. They feel comfortable there. Kevin knows what's making a car tick around Watkins Glen. And I think what they're talking about, what Brian's talking about in the report down in pit lane, is that they've kind of numbed down the front end of the car. The car was too responsive. As soon as you looked at the corner and just turned the wheel, it just wanted to react immediately. They want to try and numb that feeling down. That settles down the balance of the race car when you do that.
And they could have done that by either adding more front bar, making a stiffer front bar or a stiffer front spring, or even shock absorbers, but you want to tighten up the front end and make it less responsive.
Next man on the list for Angelelli is Bill Oberlin. Look at the run that Angelelli gets there. Oberlin may have been balked a little bit by GT traffic.
That is the perfect setup right there. You come off that turn 11 with a little bit more momentum, and just move the inside. Look at that. Bye.
How would you like to be Jonathan Cochet or team principal Wayne Taylor? Pressure is on for the SunTrust team. Jonathan Cachet has driven Daytona prototypes before, but not in this pressure cooker environment where a championship is on the line. And Wayne Taylor, who's been suffering from a very sore and aggravated back because he said he just hasn't had enough race miles this year. Pressure is on in that team. Angelelli is doing the job, but he needs his teammates and team owner to pull their half of the deal as well.
Well, this racetrack, I talked about it at the opening show, like this particular corner is a very long corner. You build a lot of G-forces as you go through there, and if you're not in good physical shape, those G-forces start to pummel you and you weaken.
Let's take you back to GT. Let's talk about the 70 Speed Source Mazda. There it is on screen, and it is down in the teens. It's 13th in class at the moment, 30th overall.
And this is what it hates right here. Look, it's got to climb the mountain now, and it doesn't have any torque to do it with.
Angelelli nearly ran right over the top of Sylvain Tremblay there, and these guys just seem to have lost their mojo a little bit over the last couple of weekends. They started off the season so strong, couple of victories, but the last two races haven't looked like the same people.
Cal, right now, the position that they're in is mainly because of that early pit stop. They lost a lot of track position to other GT cars that didn't come in, so they did do their mandatory stop in the first 45. But the team was really lost with the setup all weekend long. This morning, they gambled. They threw a completely new setup on that car. Right now, Tremblay's saying it is a good setup. Their real problem was tire wear. Just after a couple laps, the car was really falling off, losing a half a second here, another second there. Right now, Tremblay's saying that the car is very consistent. They're just taking their time. They've got over 5 hours to do this, so let's not get impatient, guys.
Normally that lightweight Mazda picks them off at the end, doesn't it? I mean, it waits for everybody to lose their tires. Now, in this particular day, it's very cool outside. The track is in very, very good shape, and I think tire wear is not going to be an issue.
We saw them struggle at Lime Rock, though, Dorsey, and talking to them here this weekend, they found that they had a diff setting issue, and the differential can really have such an effect on the overall handling of the car. And at Lime Rock, they actually are inducing an understeer condition where the front wasn't turning, and consequently, as you're coming off the corners with that much steering input, and then flicks it to oversteer. So they feel they're on top of that, but, you know, we've heard the story before at Lime Rock. Yeah, we feel good, we're running a good pace, it's a long race, where the race is going to come to us, but there's a lot of competition at the front of the pack now.
Now, these differentials in the back, you can control how much wheel spin you get left wheel to right wheel. The more you tighten it down, the more the car pushes forward because you're bolting both rear wheels in a position where they can only drive you straight on. So you can adjust the amount of that, and that's what they've done.
We talk about the history of this racetrack. The legend Dan Gurney certainly enjoyed racing here, enjoyed success here, and his young son Alex boasts almost a 14-second lead over Max Angelelli. We are live from upstate New York. It is such a picturesque setting here at Watkins Glen. Not only a great racetrack, but a very nice area of the world to visit. You want to know the secrets? Well, Calvin Fish tells us in this week's Ruby Tuesday Recipe for Success.
With the longer format of the race here this weekend, driver changes will certainly be critical. But it's not simply how fast the drivers can get in and out of the race car. The car setup is super crucial. Earlier this year, we saw Colin Brown dominate a couple of events from the pole position, but when he turned the car over to his teammate Max Pappas, who's a proven winner and champion in this series, he really struggled with the setup and couldn't keep it at the front. We talked to the team about the dilemma this year.
What makes me faster doesn't make Colin fast, and what makes him fast doesn't make me as fast. And sometimes it's just in endurance, it's just a balance. Someone needs to give up a few tenths to pick up the other guy, and all has to be happy.
Well, Max and I have been working hard together, along with my engineer Dave. We've been trying to get a setup that's good for both of us. Max likes a car that has a little bit more rear grip, just a little bit more comfortable to drive, and we've been struggling to kind of get those two together.
It's always a challenge to make it the same field for two different drivers, but we do our best, and it's an interesting little compromise.
Well, as you can tell, setup is certainly a dilemma for these teams this weekend, and that problem may be compounded by certain teams who are running 3 drivers for the 6-hour event.
Well, with Matt, he's so new that I'm molding him to drive my kind of car, which is very nice because you can see in the data he tries to carry speed a certain way, this and that. I'm like, hey, no, change it up this way, and it works, and it's making him faster and faster.
We actually have great compatibility. Bill is he's a guy that hustles the car all the time. Like, I'm always trying to keep up with him, and you know, he drives in real deep, and we have the very similar styles. So me jumping in this car, no problem.
Drama for Samax. The Sitco Daytona prototype is stationary with no driver in it. Brian, what's going on?
Lee Tomasinga just climbed out. I spoke with Paul Hasselgren, who builds the motors for these cars, and they have been running great all year. The last 3 races, 2 fourths and a fifth. Sounds like something broken in the engine. It sounded like either a valve or a rocker, a significant tick in that engine when they were running it here in pit lane. They were done for the day.
Oh, that is a shame, because if you look at that car in endurance racing, how about the Rolex 24 at Daytona? It was outstanding. A podium result. Patrick Carpentier and the team did so well. Enger was in the sister car, if you remember it, at Daytona earlier this year. They were really excited about their prospects this weekend, and we take one off the list for perhaps another new winner.
I know, that's a big shame. Those boys were exceptionally fast this weekend. I thought they would be a factor today.
It's on in GT. There's some good hard racing. Dirk Werner still leads the way from Lawson Aschenbach, and then Paul Edwards has taken over third from Andy Pilgrim. Meanwhile, updating you on Patrick Long and Scott Pruitt, they continue to claw their way back. Patrick Long is in 21st outright. Scott Pruitt is down in 35th overall. Here is Long.
Of course, they need a caution. If they were to get a caution, they would get the lucky dog and move up 1 lap. Without a caution, unlapping yourself here, well, you're not going to.
Under a caution in the Rolex Sports Car Series, the first car 1 lap down gets a second chance. Sports car's equivalent to the lucky dog. It gets the wave by, gets back on the lead lap, and here comes Pruitt. It is a long way back, but they've done it before.
They have done it before, Lee. As a matter of fact, Scott Pruitt and Max Pappas won this race several years ago from several laps back. I spoke with Tim Keene a little while ago. I said, is the car okay? Because Scott feels that he actually got bumped there on that first lap into the bus stop. Tim said the car is great. We're just running a nice, steady pace. We're trying to save the car right now because we know it will be that lucky dog. We'll get that lap back. So we're going to run the pace right now, save the car for the end. That's exactly what they're doing. They've done it before. Victory, it's not out of sight yet.
And no disrespect to the competitors back then. The 04 season wasn't as strong as the 07 season, and without the second chance or lucky dog, you might say it's our chances are over, but now you say we've still got a shot.
Now what you do is race to be the lead guy a lap down, because then you will, when the caution comes out, get that lap back. It's a different strategy, and the strategy is keep the car alive to the end. You'll beat the car up trying to unlap yourself 2 laps. You know, there won't be anything around 6 hours from now when you need to win the race. So right now, run it smooth, run it steady, and play your card, which is basically the lucky dog.
There are some impressive lap times going down right now. Alex Gurney is in the 1:44 range, and he has increased his lead over Max Angelelli. It's now out to 17.5 seconds. This is an incredible opening stint.
Incredible pace. I just saw 44.0 on the board a couple of laps ago. There you see Angelelli just puffing something, maybe just the skid block or maybe a little bit of tire rub as he goes through that heavily loaded corner. But Gurney is on a mission here this weekend. The 99 car just so strong. And I really think when you look at the overall chemistry of the 99 team, John Fogarty coming in, he's very technically minded, and I think he's working really well with Kyle Brandon, who's one of the sharpest minds down in pit lane, to make the 99 car quick.
Here it is, the race leading car. Alex Gurney victorious at Mexico City. Boy, that took the cork out of the bottle. The pressure was released for those guys to finally get that elusive first victory. Now they know they can win. They want to do it again. The most successful car in qualifying this year. It has outright lap speed, but they want to know the secret to putting it all together in an endurance race. They've had great history here. Podium results at the 6 hour before, and the scraps on in GT. Take a look at this. Aschenbach and Paul Edwards. Edwards grabs second from Lawson and goes on with it.
We have to note there that the 30 car did not make a pit stop under that first caution period. So this is why the 07 car is having to fight his way back through the field.
Well, we talked to you earlier about the Sitco Samax Pontiac, and it's out for the day. Brian's with Tomasinga.
Lee, it's great to see Tomasinga back in the Rolex Sports Car Series. Good to see you here, but what put you out? It sounded like a motor problem.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was really enjoying this weekend. Got back to this prototype after Daytona, the 24-hour, and I really enjoy these kind of races. But unfortunately, after 15 laps, we have some problem with the engine, with the motor, and we're done for today. That's a shame, but everything everything was running well until that point.
You are a busy guy. You're here this weekend. I know you're getting on a plane heading over to France to run Le Mans. But how's the elbow? You had that huge crash earlier in the year. 24 hours over in Le Mans. Is that going to be okay?
Well, I hope so. Actually, I've done 3 weeks ago Utah Grand Prix, the American Le Mans Series. It was my first race after the accident, and I found out that I didn't lose anything in my speed. It's still a little bit painful, the elbow, and I have to still, you know, train more than usually to get my muscles back. But on the other hand, I think I'm prepared well for Le Mans for the 24-hour. This should have been another test for myself before the big race, and I hope we're gonna do well next weekend.
Well, I asked him earlier about driving back and forth. He said, hey, I'll drive anything. I just want to go racing. That's why he was here. We wish him the best of luck next week, guys.
If there's one positive to come out of that, he'll be less tired heading to Le Mans.
Yes.
We've lost someone. Someone's gone. It's the 61.
Now, it's more than that one, I think. The 61's gone, too.
The next 3 laps.
Bert Frizzell scrambles back on.
Lock up on my last downshift. I went off. I'm okay. I'm back on, but I'm going to put some stuff in it.
He's talking about rear lockup, meaning that his rear brakes locked up, which turned the car on his downshift, which aggravated the rear even more.
And these guys have a new brake package from PFC, which all of these guys who come from the single-seater rakes really like. It's got a really firm pedal and gives them great bite and feel, but it just caught Bert out there under braking for that tricky corner, and that's something that you can adjust, Dorsey, from inside the cockpit with that brake bias adjustment.
Replay on board the 58 with Darren Law.
Yeah, going down the toe of the boot, you saw right there, Calvin, just like you described, rear brake lockup. He'll be dialing more front brake in on the knob now.
When you have too much rear brake, it's almost like yanking the e-brake on when you're trying to slide your rental car around, Dorsey, which we see you do every night back in the parking lot of the hotel.
Now, that was when I was younger. Gives me a headache now.
Lee's pretty good at it, too.
Keep your foot on the brake.
Well, Bert Frizzell brings the 61 machine to pit lane. Now, they were going to have to do that mandatory pit stop here in the next couple minutes anyway, so no contact with the 58 out on the track. That's what Bert is reporting to the team, so it just sounds like he had a little bit of mistake in the cockpit. So this is going to get that mandatory stop done. The team just taking fuel, so obviously tire wear is not an issue so far today with the way the temperatures are.
You heard the engineer say that he had a big over rev on the downshift, which is off the telemetry. He saw that. What that means is Bert put it in the next lower gear too soon and let the clutch out and went past what they should have been running on revs.
And that has hurt their chances whilst running very strong in the top 5. But nobody is running as strong as Gurney. Pit lane is alive. The reason why is we welcome you back to the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. We're under our second full course caution.
Down the 05 pit, Bill Arbelin out. Joey Hand will be making his first stint in this car. Also on pit road, the leader was in. No driver change there. Tires and fuel only. Same for the SunTrust team. Angelelli stays in the car. Tires and fuel. Joey Hand behind the wheel. Strapped in, down, and in that way.
Not the best of pit stops there. We saw a couple of cars look like they leapfrogged over the 05, and there's the reason, Lee.
Yep. The 30 Racers Edge Pontiac of Lawson Aschenbach. Big contact. And that's what's left that car stranded. Here's the replay.
Well, up into the tunnel turn, as we call it. Just breaks loose. Good job by Pruitt not getting into that. And that's a big hit, Calvin, straight on.
Yeah, he just, as you see it, just snapped back around, and the Armco barrier is right there. There's no runoff there as you join the short course once again. Major damage. What a disappointment for that team after another great run today.
Calvin, I don't know what it looks like on TV, but at least Lawson is reporting to the team that he thinks he had contact with another car before he got into the guardrail. But at this point in time, he cannot get the car back to pit lane. They're going to hope they can get it towed to the paddock because we still have more than 5 hours left, and they want to get that car back out on the racetrack.
So everybody has completed their mandatory first stop within that first 45 minutes. And we can tell you that there was no contact there.
Scott Pruitt was on the outside of him, did a great job of not having contact. Lawson, on the other hand, couldn't do much with saving of that car because Pruitt was there.
The only thing trying to read into what Lawson was telling the team, maybe it had contact earlier in the lap, maybe some damage to the right side, right rear, giving him the benefit of the doubt, but it looked like he just lost it by himself coming off that corner.
What we do like to do is squeeze in commercial breaks while we're under yellow so we can stay with as much green flag racing as we can. That's what we'll do. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. And by Lexus and their pursuit of perfection. Welcome back, everyone. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Brian Till and Chris Neville, all with you here live from upstate New York, Watkins Glen, for the 6 hours of the Glen. We go endurance racing for the first time since the Rolex 24. Of course, we've been in sprint race mode, 2.5-hour races, but now we go for the full distance of 6. We're with you for just under another hour, all the way through to 1 p.m. Eastern. Then we go away to Formula One qualifying and come back for the final stages of this race right through until 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And this is the wounded Racers Edge Pontiac. Lawson Uschenbach, who crashed the car heavily into the Armco, the guardrail. It's being helped back. We're under our second full course caution, and we will go back to racing shortly. Well, the big news since we were last with you for Daytona Prototypes, since Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, for GT, since Lime Rock, is that the young superstar of this category, Colin Brown, was part of a major announcement involving Roush Fenway Racing. Chris Neville has more.
Yeah, Lee, lots of excitement here in the paddock this weekend, and nobody more excited than Colin Brown. The focus this year is going to be a lot of testing in ARCA. He is going to participate in 2 races, but next year he's going to go for the championship in ARCA and then the fast track to Nextel Cup. We did have a chance to talk to some Nextel notables about what Colin has to look forward to.
The thing is that if you want to come NASCAR racing, you got to learn how to race on ovals. You know, our series is about ovals and big, heavy cars. I think that you just got to go and get in as many different types of cars and the most difficult types of cars, which I don't think anything's more difficult than a stock car.
I think just the weight of these cars, you know, having a smaller tire, learning tire management, you know, I mean, how hard you can run at certain times, learning that fine line in these cars was difficult, and each track's a little different, each tire's a little different, so staying on top of that's probably one of the hardest things on this side.
To learn the braking in the heavy car and how to drive it on the edge without going over the edge. And, I mean, that's still a problem at times. You just have to, you want to go so fast, and at the same time you have to watch that, or you'll get yourself in trouble in a second in these cars.
The cars are completely different. You come to racetracks that they look like ovals when you get on them. They're not ovals. They're something that somebody's brainstormed, just everything that goes into place. I mean, it's a tough step to make, but you know, it's one of those things. If you got talent as a race car driver, it's still 4 wheels, it's still a steering wheel. It takes a lot of different learning, but if you got the talent, you can drive a race car.
I think for Colin, he's a talented driver, and he'll adapt quite well. I mean, he's adapted really well in everything he's got into. And, you know, there is going to be a transition period, and the thing that you got to go in is just knowing that you don't know everything about stock car racing, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And I think if you come in with the mindset that, hey, I can do this, I'm going to win my first race, you end up crashing. It's very easy to overdo it.
I'm sure in the coming weeks we're going to hear a lot of debate whether this young road racer is ready for the NASCAR scene. But the key here is young. He's only 18 years old. We see so much maturity on and off the racetrack. So is he really a road racer, or is this just a short chapter in what looks to be a very promising career?
Well, there you have it. Big news. Colin Brown, Roush Fenway Racing. Is he on his way to NASCAR superstardom? Well, we will watch with much interest over the coming years, and from everyone on the sports car side of the fence, we wish him well.
We understand that the 23 car, Pat Long, the Ruby Tuesday entry, may be the recipient of that second chance, the lucky dog, as we call it in NASCAR, and that is a big break for this team, Dors.
It is indeed. We also heard, though, it might have a cut-down tire, in which case, as it gets waved by and tries to make up this 3.5-mile track, is going to be a big effort.
That's right, Dorsey. Pat Long reporting to the team. He's got a cut-down tire. He wanted to come in, but the team said, you got to stay out there. You're in position to get the lucky dog. You got to get that wave by and then try and make up as much ground as you can. With as long a track as this is, most likely he can't catch the back of the field. And along with that, he's got to come in and deal with that tire going down.
Confusion here. Pat's asking, can I get by the 58? Did you see him floor it? They said, yes, go for it. He gets the wave by, he gets the second chance. is back on the lead lap after a very frustrating opening lap. We'll be back.
Out for
Thursday on Payback, legendary martial arts fighter and professional wrestler Ken Shamrock gives his dad the ultimate Father's Day gift, because when you make it to the top, you've got to say thank you in a big way. Payback, Thursday at 9 Eastern, exclusively on Speed. We welcome you back to the Glen. It's been quite an elongated caution period. The cleanup of Lawson Aschenbach's Pontiac GXPR. While we were away, Pat Long dove to pit road. Cleanup continues, but in a different section of the track. There's more debris out there. So the safety crew, corner workers, as always, doing a wonderful job here at the Glen. And a much cooler day. I can't begin to tell you how hot and humid it was up here in upstate New York yesterday. It was in the 90s and the humidity was unbearable. It has cooled off dramatically today, which is a big relief for the drivers' teams. Think of all the workers on pit road. So it's a much more comfortable day. Brian?
Well, the weather is changing, Lee, and yeah, you're right, it's cooler than it was yesterday, but it is warming up now from where it was in the morning warm-up. Some of these teams made changes to their cars because they thought it was going to be cloudy all day. Well, the track temperature and the ambient temperature probably 15 degrees warmer than it was. And talking to Kyle Brannon down at Gainesco, he said already Alex Gurney is saying the balance of the car is changing. The track is starting to get greasy. Now, I do know that the 10 car is running a very low downforce setting, as is Scott Pruitt. The question to Dorsey and Calvin is, as it warms up and gets greasier, without that downforce on the car, is that going to be more difficult for those guys to drive?
Well, it will be on the high-speed part, and we've talked about, Calvin, that this racetrack has got so many high-speed corners. That's where they're going to get loose.
We heard yesterday after qualifying in the heat that Lee was talking about that a lot of cars went to an understeer condition. What the engineers would have thought about today, that they wouldn't have that same push in the car in much cooler conditions. So it's really a juggling act. There's a little bit of a gamble. You have to roll the dice a little bit in terms of what race conditions you're going to see today.
Well, while we remain under this caution, we will squeeze in another commercial break to get another one out of the way so we can stay with more racing. But first, a very important and sad message from everyone at Speed and in the sports car community. We were saddened to learn the news of the passing of Bill France Jr.
When it comes to Bill France, I think that we have to recognize what he accomplished for all of motorsports. And quite clearly, his total focus was NASCAR. But the legacy he has left behind is one that affects every discipline of motorsports in the United States. NASCAR has certainly become a national phenomenon, and I believe it has helped raise the awareness of auto racing to people all across our great country. So all of us at Grand Am have to benefit from the things that Bill France did in making NASCAR what it has become today.
Speed Channel brings all kinds of people together. Happy anniversary, guys. Hope you're enjoying the weekend here at the Glen. And we are ready, for sure, to go back to racing here in round 6 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. The Sahlen, 6 hours of the Glen. Alex Gurney is the race leader and has been right from the drop of the green. He's been in a class of his own this weekend. He and John Fogarty in that 99 Gainesco Auto Insurance Pontiac Riley. He's been in a class of his own in this race thus far.
Certainly during practice and qualifying, they are running an extreme amount of downforce on the 99 car and just carrying so much speed through places like the inner loop. And there's really a compromise there, Dorsey, on a track like this with the amount of corners you have and the amount of straightaways to whether you run downforce, which creates drag, or whether you just look for sheer straight line speed.
Before we get to more on the 99, what's going on here is Mark Raffoff, the director of competition, and his staff, they're arranging the field as they should be. They're sorting out who gets the second chance. There's one in Daytona Prototype, one in GT. The field will form up again and we will go back racing very soon. Brian.
You guys talking about the 99 and how well they've been running. I went to Kyle Brannon and I said, you know, the pace you guys are running, you're going to slow down a little bit. And he said, you know, what's bad is we're just cruising. We're actually trying to save fuel right now. So to give you an indication of how dominant that car is, if they're just cruising and trying to save fuel, guys, that's got to be scary for everybody else up and down pit road.
You know, smoother is faster, Calvin. You know, you try to slow up, you stop aggressively driving into the corner, and the speed comes to you.
Yeah, it really does. And these boys are just tuned in right now. every time they unload that 99 machine and we go onto a racetrack, wherever it is, it seems to be at the top of the charts. Just incredible job by the boys, but they want more wins. That's what it's all about.
Well, another pat on the back for a different car, and it's the 39 Crown Royal Special Reserve Porsche Fab car for Chiva Racing. It's a trio of drivers this weekend: Harrison Bricks, Christian Fittipaldi, and the very fast Antonio Garcia. Chris, these guys have done a great job considering where they started.
Yeah, Lee, that car has been so fast all weekend long, but problems in qualifying. That motor, they had to change out, so they had to start at the back of the pack today. And Christian saying the car is in great shape right now. We're just taking our time. We've got 5 more hours to get it to the front. Right now, they're working their way up into the top 10, but still showing a lot of speed out there. So with the lineup that they have this week, and I imagine that car should hopefully be finishing near the front.
See a little bit of grass there, it looks like, in the radiator grill on the front end, so I'm not sure whether Christian has had some kind of off-course excursion during these early laps or whether someone else has just dropped some dirt on the racetrack. But this car has had major modifications over the course of this season, which has really turned things around. One thing, talking to Harrison Bricks, that he is concerned about, they've really tried to save weight in that race car, and consequently the bodywork is not quite as tough as it could be. Tougher you make the bodywork, the more weight, certainly. And he said if we get into it with anyone, it typically just breaks the nose off this machine. So he said we have to keep it clean.
Well, it's a busy weekend for motorsport here in North America. Of course, Formula One up in Canada. And tomorrow night with Dave Despain on Wind Tunnel, Giancarlo Fisichella from Renault will be the special guest, along with guest hosts Bob Varsha and David Hobbs. Should we square away on Hobbs now?
I think so.
Go for it.
Well, it's his birthday today, so happy 70th, David.
Oh!
Chris. Go for it, Chris.
Lee down here with Max Pappas. Max, so many guys on the Crone team heading over to Le Mans as of tomorrow. You're one of those guys. You're going to be with Corvette. But today, trying to break through and get that first victory for the 75 car. What's it going to take?
It's going to take a lot of commitment. We want to really win for Crown Racing. I really want to win, and I want to win for Pantec as well. So watch out, we're coming.
Colin right now in real good position up into the top 5. So this team once again showing how strong they are at Watkins Glen.
Max is a 2-time winner of the 6 hour. He knows how to do it. Won it back in '96 in that beautiful 333 SP Ferrari. Great car. And then of course he won here with Scott Pruitt back in '04. for the Chip Ganassi organisation. Lights are off on the pace car. We are ready to go racing. Finally, after a very prolonged caution period, they've sorted themselves out. We're ready to go. Can anyone go with Alex Gurney?
I'll call the green. Easy, nice and steady. Nice and steady. Nice. Green, 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 green.
Let's go at Watkins Glen.
Max Angelelli dives to the inside of the 12 machine. Gurney will now feel the pressure of Max the Axe.
He had to do that. He had to get that machine out of the way, and if he's going to have any chance of catching Alex has got the legs. I don't think there's anybody going to catch him on speed.
And that car third in line is not third in the race, but that is Justin Bell. And we welcome Justin to the Speed Crew next weekend in Le Mans. He's excited, and we're glad he's on our team.
Look at Negri going down the inside. This is going to get tight here into the inner loop. We've already seen action there today.
See, all the cars will use the curbs through there. They're new curbs. They're flat as you first get onto them. It doesn't upset the car, but you go too far, you push the issue too much, and they get very steep on the other end.
Remember that Oswaldo Negri and Mark Patterson really enjoy this racetrack. Mike Shank's boys really perform well at this racetrack. We'll see if they're there at the end of the day. Someone's off. Who is it?
Inner loop again.
Two different cars in the inner loop.
It's the Matt Connolly GTO-R.
And you know what that means.
And that's one of the Racers Group cars, the TRG, the 65 of Brian Sellers.
And so we have our third full course yellow.
Brian Sellers drafted in here this weekend to join the young squad of Smith and DeLeo, who had such a great run at Laguna Seca.
And as I always say, yellows breed yellows. The restarts, they just pile them up.
Because they're scrambling to get back to position and get a better position.
And they're all out of sorts, as we saw the 12 car right in the second place on the racetrack, but a lap down. Well, they got together right early in the corner.
Yeah, it looked like Brian was maybe trying to make an inside move there on Pruitt. And that's a big shame because there's a lot of work done to that 21 machine to get it repaired after the big crash at Lime Rock. Chris?
You know, guys, just taking a look at the past two incidents with the 30 car and Oceanback behind the wheel there, and now Sellers, you know, are we possibly seeing that some of these guys who typically don't come in and run these races maybe being a little bit impatient here today with 5 hours still to go?
Yeah. I would say that's right.
Sean Price in the car, my mistake there, not Pruitt. So Sean Price in the car in that incident.
You know, that inner loop, guys always want to go through their side-by-side. Whenever they do, they end up in that gravel trap. And in a 6-hour race, you know, you don't have to have that level of commitment at that spot on the racetrack.
Bit of a surprise here. I'm not sure how strategy would really play into these boys bringing this in right now. You're going to lose a lot of track position, but we see a lot of the GT boards being waved. This is just a top up on fuel, so just probably splitting strategies here between the 06 and the 07.
There's no sense of urgency down there.
Maybe there's some drama.
Yeah.
Well, we're hearing that there's radio communication problems between the team and the driver, but I didn't see anybody go inside to do anything.
Paul Edwards behind the wheel. First pole of the year in the GXPR, and it's been a promising opening stint to the race for Edwards.
Lee, just heard from the 07 team. They are having some voltage issues with the battery, so that's why they initially came in. It's going to be interesting to see if that car has to come back to pit lane. They're maybe going to throw a new battery in there or try and make a quick fix of some sort.
And guess who is at the top of the GT field? Dirk Werner, Sylvain Tremblay, the two at the top in the championship points. Can't get any closer. They're tied heading into this 6-hour enduro. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. We are a long way from the finish here at Watkins Glen. Very scenic upstate New York. We've got just over half an hour to go in this live show for you folks, but it's a great afternoon of viewing because coming up it is Formula One qualifying from the Canadian Grand Prix. You'll see that in its entirety. Then we'll be back with you on the other side of that to take you right through to the checkered flag here at Watkins Glen and some post-race interviews and information as well.
Just to clarify, it's really not Hobbs' 70th, but he is getting up there. But more significant in the Hobbs family is his grandson Austin Hobbs' birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday, Austin.
Is he lying about his age?
He's an up-and-coming racer, so probably.
Brian.
You guys talk about up and coming. Take a look at the Mike Shank cars running 5th and 8th right now. Both Oswaldo Negre, Ian James doing a great job getting those cars up the order. Now remember, they're sharing those cars with two gentlemen drivers. Obviously John Pugh, Mark Patterson, they're good race car drivers, but Ian James and Oswaldo Negre, they rank right up there with the best. Strategy for those teams, try to get those fast drivers in the beginning, get the gentlemen in the middle, and then take their fast guys and leave them in for the last 3 hours, guys. 3 hours around this track. Chris?
Brian, had a chance to check back in with the Banner Group on the 07 car. They did put a battery in that car. I asked them if it was potentially an alternator problem. They said they were not able to pull anything down on the computer about the alternator, so only time will tell with that car.
All right, this is like Groundhog Day, isn't it? We're ready to go again.
Ready. Nice and steady. Nice and steady. Green, green, green.
Restart. Let's do it one more time. Let's see if anyone can go with Alex Gurney. The Seagull Sport BMW has a look on the inside. Well, we don't have any lap traffic in the way now, so it's a fair fight. Can Angelelli run with Gurney?
Well, Gurney put a nice brake check on Angelelli in that final corner, and that's what gapped the field here when we got the green flag.
And you're riding on board with Joey Hand as he takes this car around. Saw that puff of smoke, Calvin, off the left rear. That is exactly what you talked about. Body rub as they make that initial climb up the S's.
This is a huge opportunity for Joey Hand to show the sports car world what he can do in a Daytona prototype. It's been the source of some frustration for the young American driver that he hasn't been given this opportunity to date. He's done testing in prototypes but never raced. So Joey, go get him. Show him what you can do.
This is the lead in GT. Dirk Werner over Sylvain Tremblay in the Mazda.
And Here's Hensler in the Taffel racing car. Again, he's dynamite around this racetrack. Won the last 2 6 hours. He sneaks a look down the inside. That's not a good passing zone. We talk about the extra grip there. Tremblay in the lighter weight Mazda. And here's Hensler. He's on the prowl.
It used to be so rough through that corner. It was all patched together, and they did a good job of smoothing it all out, getting rid of those patches.
And the man who he won the GT class with at the 6 Hour here last year, Scotsman Robin Liddell, was the recipient of the second chance, the lucky dog in the GT class. And Justin Bell got it for the Daytona prototypes.
It's nice to see this racetrack, Watkins Glen, spend some money on the road course, not just the NASCAR entity inside of the thing. They're tuning up the road course, which is one of the best in this United States, that's for sure.
There we see Andy Pilgrim in the 06. In the background there, the Banner Racing Pontiac. Traffic coming underneath him on the recovering DP cars. So Pilgrim may be the leading light here for the Pontiac boys, and we know the 30 is out. We know the 07 has potential problems. Has certainly lost a lot of track time.
This is Michael Valiente in the orange and black Ganassi prototype, letting the GT boys know that he is coming through. Heavy crash involving Rob Finlay in that car earlier this weekend. A big fix, and spoke to Michael last night. He said the car's not quite right, but they are trying, and he's got some catching up to do. He's in 16th place at the moment.
Of course, changing that battery in the 07 Pontiac, that's an easy thing, Calvin, to do. If they have to change the alternator, on the other hand, that's going to cost them dearly.
One thing they may end up doing is having a battery ready on every pit stop, but Werner is feeling the pressure there, protected his line. That will cost him lap time, certainly, but right now all he's thinking about is maintaining the lead ahead of Tremblay.
Calvin, the Speed Source guys, very excited about where the 70 car is. I just checked with him to see if Sylvain Tremblay had stayed out there and only done that one initial pit stop, but he has been in for his second pit stop, so this team really moving forward since they were back in about 15th earlier in the race. So right now the team very happy with what the car is doing, and they've just made up a lot of time by good thinking on the racetrack and quick pit stops.
Look who's at the back of this pack. Andy Lally is in the mix.
He certainly is. He had such a brilliant win at Laguna Seca a couple of races ago. He would love to repeat here. Strong driver line up there. RJ Valentine along with Spencer Pompelli will join Andy Lally here today. So TRG have really been one of the leading lights in GT competition, and they actually had, when they were in coordination with the Krohn Racing Group, a 1-2 finish here in the DP category a couple of years ago, so they know their way around this racetrack, certainly.
It's good to see all these GT cars being that equal. You know, you've got everything in there. You got the Porsche in there, the Mazda, the Pontiac, all running right there together.
What's Lally got here for the 06? Our latest race winner in the GT class. Very excited to have his old friend Spencer Pompelli in with he and RJ this weekend. What can they do? Such a long way to go in this race. Still 4 hours, 40 minutes to run.
Now this is where the Pontiac may struggle a little bit up this long hill. It's got a big frontal area. About 4% more frontal area. It's like what they call the greenhouse effect of this race car pulling through the hill. Look at the lead.
Angelelli on Gurney. I flagged the question earlier, can anyone go with him? Well, the axe is.
Yeah, he is. No question about it. Now I've got to wonder, after their pit stops, if there were some changes made.
Well, Brian talked about the fact that Kyle Brannon had said that the balance is changing on the 99 machine, and he has certainly lost a little bit of lap time from what we saw earlier, Brian.
Calvin, two very different strategies as far as aerodynamic setup. The 99 running a lot more downforce. We talked about how Angelelli is trimmed out, and what we may be seeing right now is that straight line speed really starting to take over, and the 10 car coming to the front. But I see some activity down in the 99 pit. I'm going to run down and check it out, guys.
And look who is in third. Darren Law in the Porsche Riley for Brumos Racing. There he is, just into view there ahead of Joey Hand in the BMW powered Riley. Then it's Oswaldo Negri 5 with Ride with Law. Difference from the Porsche to the BMW.
Yeah, good here. On the Porsche, it was bottoming all the way up the S, so it's running real low to the ground.
Difference in gear shifts as well. The Porsche powered cars have a 6-speed box. which is not allowed in the bigger displacement engines. You're only allowed 5-speed with the Pontiac and the BMW.
Of course, the Porsche engine running at a much higher rev limit as well. You know, turning up near 9,000 revs as opposed to the BMW down around 7.
It's a good scrap going on, isn't it? 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Colin Brown isn't too far behind Oswaldo Negri. Then you got Gidley, James, Bert Frizzell, and Nick Johnson into the top 10 in the second Krone car. Brian.
Lee, I said I saw activity down in the Gainesco pit. I ran down here, checked it out. There was a crew member standing at the wall watching the car as it came by that last time. The report, grass in the radiators. They're starting to overheat, so they're going to bring Alex Gurney in on this very next lap, bring him in, blow out those radiators. Obviously, they'll take the opportunity to do fuel and tires as well. We'll have to wait and see if they do a driver change. Seems like the Gremlins are back for the Gainesco team. Right now, overheating, guys.
Is that pickup, or is he? We didn't see him run off anywhere to get
there
grass.
doesn't look to be a lot of grass in the radiator to cause the engine to heat in these cool conditions.
Have a good look for us, Brian. Tell us.
Well, as he rolls towards me, guys, I don't see much there. Oh, no, there he is. There's a fair amount of grass across the front of those radiators. And all it takes, as you guys well know, is to block it out. Obviously, the radiator opening's not particularly big. And there's a fire on the right front, but it's just a brake fire. I think that'll be okay. Crew guys looking at it right now, spraying water down on the radiators. Gurney back on track.
That would have been just some of that grass got into the wheel itself and set fire by the hot brake rotor and caliper there. But this is what these guys need to do. They have a fast race car to settle down. The race can still come back to them. They have enough speed to get back to the front.
And I don't think that Alex got off the road and got that grass himself. But what can happen is that someone else could have gone off in front of Alex, thrown the grass up in front of him, and of course that radiator's got a lot of pressure, just sucks it right up in there.
Just got a report from race control, Dorse. There was a corner worker that reported that car did go off track just slightly.
Well, doesn't take much, that's for sure.
Typically, I would have said that looked like a Lee Diffie divot. But the way I'm playing right now is probably more like one of mine.
Thank you for correcting that.
The man
so
is
the catch-up
catch-up
begins for the Gainesco crew. New race leader. I mentioned right at the top of the show that it's a great time of the year if you're a sports car racing fan. We are off to the Mecca of sports cars, Le Mans. Next weekend for the 24 hours, we are bringing you 18 of the 24. We're very excited, and so too are a number of drivers in this field. Take a look at this. Guys doing double duty that are here today and racing next weekend. Busy, busy drivers.
You sure we're doing 18 hours long? I'm going back to driving. I never had driving.
Didn't know about that, Dorse? Is that news to you?
They don't tell me the small details.
That gives you a good overview of how many are very busy. Now this is Oswaldo Negri chasing Joey Hand. This team just seems to go into a different gear at this racetrack. Mike Shank Racing I'm talking about. Let's ride with Oz. Let's have a listen and see if he can make any ground on Joey Hand. Turn it up.
Those curbs pretty good.
This is not good for the 14 of Derek Skay in the Autometrics Porsche.
Big spin.
Yep. That is quite a precarious position too. Needs to get out of there. That's at the inner loop. Exit of the inner loop. And we can tell you that that is where the 99 Gainsco car of Alex Gurney went off. Let's take a look at it.
We didn't see it, but our guys back dug up the dirt, if you will, as Alex is doing right here. Goes through the inner loop with a little too much speed on, and we got you, buddy.
Just trying to deal with some GT traffic there, and he didn't see him and got squeezed.
And this is just what happened to Derek Skye. Exiting the inner loop.
He did that all on his own. You can see from the skid marks on the track back there, Calvin, that he lost it on the switchback when he turned to the left. Went around a couple different times.
He did. He got lucky there to avoid the Armco barrier. Here, see Oz dialing through the traffic once again, and there's Colin Brown. We talked about the fact that this car should have been in victory lane already this season. They're trying to find a compromise in the setup so that both Max and Colin could run good, fast race laps. And in the early part of the season, they felt they were really dialing the car too much towards Colin's preferences, and Max having a struggle when he got in the car. So today we'll see if this compromise is working.
Dorsey, a little birdie told me this weekend, before that inner loop was there, you did over 200 miles an hour in a car up that stretch. Is that true?
Our old Whistler at Cougar ran the top speed of like 218 back there before they had the inner loop. And it was ironic, before Bill France was passing, you know, I was testing here the day after that with Jack Roush, and Bill France called on the phone, and they came in and they said, "You got a phone call?" I said, "I'm busy, I'm testing." They said, "No, you better take this one. It's Mr. France." And what he told me to do is take that car out there on the straightaway and drive it down into turn 5 from different areas to see where it was that I could enter turn 5 at 80 miles an hour and no more. And at that point, we gave him the data, and there was born the inner loop. That's a long
good job, Doss. Guys, enjoy that corner. We see plenty of action there.
To GT. And it is on. It's been a good scrap today. Dirk Werner has a comfortable margin over this car here, the 70 of Sylvain Tremblay, and Andy Lally has made good progress as well. He's jumped up into second. There's a good scrap. Wolf Hensler is still in there. So too is Dominic Farnbacher, the second Farnbacher Lowell's car. And then Andy Pilgrim, you see in the 06, and Paul Edwards on the comeback trail.
Lally made mincemeat of that group. He really sliced through those guys pretty effectively. And here you see the 70 just ahead of Hensler, trying to hold him off.
So it's Porsche, and then it's Mazda, Chris.
Yeah, Tremblay right now reporting to the team that he's having a little bit of a brake issue. He's having to pump the brakes going down into the corners, trying to get that brake pedal to stiffen up for him. So he's got a little bit of a spongy pedal that he's dealing with. Got a long race in front of him, so the team's saying, take care of those brakes, be easy on him. We've got too long of a day in front of us.
Well, that's way too early in this event to have a spongy pedal. I mean, a lot of these cars are right at their limit of wearing the brakes out, even though they run bigger brakes in this endurance category, this type of setup. They're right at the limit at the end of 6 hours of running out of brakes. But here we are, just almost 2 hours in. You can't be getting out of brakes now.
That's not good news for those boys, because they're feeling the heat as well. They got to keep pushing. Here we see that great battle right now for third between Joey Hand and Ozzie Negri.
This is valuable time for Joey Hand, as we mentioned earlier in the prototype. The trio of Bill Aublin, Joey Hand, and Matt Alhadeff. And of course, Hand and Aublin, old BMW teammates for a number of years. And they work so well together. Traffic's coming into play here. Quick decision making.
Nice read by Joey there, just slicing down to the inside. Didn't take the outside move, realizing that GT car would move back out that way. Ozzie went with him. Darren Law also fighting through the traffic, which is the car directly ahead of the blue and yellow machine.
A few positions up ahead. Race leader Max Angelelli in the SunTrust Pontiac has a 7.3 second lead over Darren Law, and then it's Joey Hand in third. So life is good if you're this man.
Angelelli leading the pack right now, where he loves to be. He's trying to make amends for what he admitted was a mistake at Laguna Seca. Cost them dearly that day and cost this man the championship lead.
So he gets past third place, fourth place in GT, and continues the surge. If you've just joined us, this is what you have missed so far. The opening stanza of the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. Alex Gurney on the left of your screen starts from pole. for the second time this season himself, third time for the team. Got away to a good clean start, but Scott Pruitt got muscled out. Then look at this, Pat Long, while second, gets out of shape, cut tyre. Pruitt was involved in that incident as well. They were both off track and we had a lengthy caution. At the restart, Gurney said, "See you later, boys. I am out of here." Max Angelelli continued the chase. He was involved in some good, hard racing, was fighting Orblin for that second spot, and he wanted to get up there and mix it with Gurney. Good scrap going on with the Pontiac GXPRs. That was for second. Paul Edwards in fine shape at that stage. Onboard view from Darren Law and Bert Frizzell. Spins all by himself. And then after earlier contact with Jim Matthews, this is what happened to Lawson Aschenbach. All by himself, but did he have a deflating tyre after the earlier contact? Smashed the wall. There was a very lengthy yellow during that period. And then the Matt Conley BMW, the TRG Porsche, Sean Price in the GTOR, they get together at the inner loop. And then the race leader, Alex Gurney, goes off, gets an air intake full of grass, needed to come in and have that fixed, and we have a new race leader in Max Angelelli to the tune of 12.5 seconds. We ride with the Italian now. It's smooth. It's been a very calm and composed, well-constructed opening stint for Max Angelelli, who is the leader. He's the lead Pontiac driver. We've got a Porsche second, a BMW third, and a Lexus in fourth. They're mixing it up nicely. Someone who was mixing it up early, Billy Orblin.
Orblin certainly knows his BMW-powered Riley well. You also know Joey Hand very well. So what do you have to tell him? This is his first time in this prototype racing with you guys this weekend. What do you have to tell him to get him up to speed, Bill?
You really don't. You just have to set him in the car. That's all you got to do. He goes quick. I mean, him and I are like, it's really strange. We have the same driving style. We fit in the same seat. Everything is great. It's no problem. Matt's going to get in the car next. I mean, the Lucky Express, Dynam BMW doing great. I'd like to say hello to my beautiful wife, Mom and Dad. Right now, we're on cruise control mode, and we don't even want to start racing until 4 hours.
Well, running well right now, running third, but question is, this is the first time you guys have had to deal with GT traffic in a while. Does it take a while to get used to using it again for your advantage, or do you keep from getting caught up behind it in traffic?
You know, I was out to dinner with Kelly Collins yesterday, and I said, "Do you like running with us?" He says, "No." I said, "I love running with you guys because we use them all the time. They kind of help us out. They slow down a fast car ahead of you. You get a run on them. Without them, it's much harder." I'm very careful today up until the end.
You'll be pressing hard at the end, guys. You said, "I'll be careful for a little while," but then you heard Bill say, "Hey, then I'm going for it at the end."
And in that race recap, we showed you some mayhem involving the 23-01 Pat Long and Scott Pruitt. They began their long catch-up process. This car here, the Ruby Tuesday Porsche Crawford of Pat Long, did get the second chance, the lucky dog, earlier in the race, got him back on the lead lap, and Pat is now sitting in 10th position. Scott Pruitt is back in 18th and is poised to be the next recipient of that second chance. And here is the Telmex car. Former winner here. He's had such a career at Watkins Glen. Even all the years he spent in kart, in champ car racing, IndyCar racing, he has raced here in GTO, GTU, GTP, IROC, Nextel Cup, Busch, and of course sports cars and Trans Am. How about that for a driving resume here at Watkins Glen? He loves this place. He has won here before. He's won the 6 hour, and he's done it, as Chris mentioned earlier, from coming back through the field. Can he do it again today?
Done a lot of work, hasn't he, Dawes? I mean, he had a rough first lap. He got bashed around there in turn one, and then we're not quite sure why he went off course after Pat Long's spin, whether he got nudged or just took evasive action. But he has enough experience, there's enough calmness in that pit stall at Ganassi to try and get these guys back to the front today.
You know, he might still be a lap down, but he's racing his way toward the front nonetheless. He'll get as many of these guys as he can. He still needs that yellow lead. There's no doubt about that. He's going to have to get the lucky dog and move on to that same lap, but he can still keep picking people off and getting closer up.
And then it's going to be it's going to need to be a very mature, very heads-up drive from Mexican Memo Rojas, who incidentally has raced here at Watkins Glen before. We saw how much of an improved performance it was from Rojas at Laguna Seca because he'd raced there previously. So we wish him well today in the catch-up process. Brian?
right now Scott Pruitt not having the car that he wants. I just checked in with Tim Keene, and he said the car is really kind of inconsistent right now. One time it's loose, the next lap it's got a bit of push to it. So whether that's the changing weather conditions or the very trim setting that they're running right now, they're not exactly sure. It could even be from the off in the beginning, but not the best car that Scott Pruitt has ever had.
Well, that sounds like a car that has got overall lack of grip, and that would be attributed to running the car so trimmed out, Calvin.
Well, one thing they really try and do, they found at Daytona, they just got tremendous fuel mileage by running less downforce in the car. And the more drag, the more downforce you got on the car, it takes more power to pull it through the air, and you use more fuel. So this fuel issue could be a factor today in the 6-hour event. We know in the shorter sprint races, the 45-minute rule has kind of eliminated that possibility with fuel mileage winning, but I think in the 6-hour today, it will certainly be a determining factor as we get towards the checkered flag this afternoon.
6 is the number we're talking about today because of the 6-hour race length. Behind Mamo Gidley in the Kodak Doran is car number 6, Ian James for Mike Shank Racing. His new co-driver is John Pugh. He got valuable miles at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, but look at Ian here, mixing it up with Gidley. This is for a spot in the top 6. And this has been a very good run. Was not happy with the car yesterday. He said it was a handful. But Mike Shank Racing and his boys, they've gone to work, tried to give Ian a car that he likes. Oswaldo Negri is up in 4th, so they got 2 cars in the top 7.
He had a good test just a week ago at Mid-Ohio. In fact, young Graham Rahal, who's doing champ car duty here this weekend at Portland, may in fact see some action in that 6 machine towards the end of the season. They tested Graham Rahal along with the regular drivers and really had a good run there.
Oh, what's going on here? He's run out of fuel. Pat Long, has he run out of fuel?
You wouldn't think so, but he's flashing the headlights.
Started it with the starter, but nothing. I've tried it 3 times already.
Well,
we're going to have to tough it out. There's nothing else we can do.
There's no way he should be out of fuel. He stopped on lap 25. We're only at 47.
Calvin, it's a power steering issue with the 23 car. This car has had a power steering issue since it got here at Watkins Glen when they initially hit the racetrack on Thursday. They had issues with that. They had to make a run to Cleveland to get a new power steering unit. That unit now having a problem on the racetrack, so they're telling Pat right now, turn the car on and off on the straightaways, trying to reset the system, but it's not working. So it looks like Pat Long, Jörg Bergmeister are going to have to tough it out the rest of the day with no power steering.
These power steerings are electrically, they're electric pump, and they're cycling the computer now to try to get the thing to come back on. In the meantime, the 64 flat left rear. Oh, and the 70.
Oh, the championship leader in GT.
Damage there to the right front corner, Dorsey.
Right outside the bus stop.
Oh, no, and that's Sylvain Tremblay.
Get there, you're okay. They're going to come get you, okay?
They sounded awfully windy.
He did. That sounded like a big hit.
The front suspension broke, and I couldn't steer.
Suspension broke, he says?
Yeah, he said the front suspension broke. I couldn't steer. I suspect there's a lot of damage. Trouble on the 77, left rear down. I just saw the left rear corner of this tire flat.
Actually, it'd be a right rear upper A-frame, I think.
Well, after they had settled into a calm rhythm, things have exploded here at Watkins Glen.
Get him hooked up and take the 4-wheeler, Rick.
Lucky boy, he's right there at pit in.
I hope Sylvain's okay. He really sounded winded on that radio communication that we were listening into.
3rd full course caution of the day. Not yet at the 2-hour mark of the race.
Sylvain's still in the car, I believe. We haven't seen him get out. I agree with you, Calvin.
On board with Tremblay.
See what happens.
Just went straight.
Broken suspension is what he said, and that's a big hit, Calvin. The tires did their job, though.
Driver's side, too. Chris? What do you got for us, Chris?
Lee, it sounds like there was some suspension that broke on the 70 car. I checked with the team to make sure Sylvain was okay. They said he is okay. Sounds like he just got the wind knocked out of him. Also, we saw the 23 car come to pit lane, so this caution really going to be helpful for that team with the power steering issue that they're seeing right now.
And more action on pit lane. This is the leader, Angelelli. Made that pit stop. I think we saw a driver change there as well. So plenty of action right now. Pit stops will be so crucial here today. That's Jonathan Cochet.
So pressure on this man, for sure. Race leading car, big responsibility. Krone team in, both of them in. In comes the Chiva Porsche. It is all happening here at the Glen. And look at that, Oswaldo Negri loves this track, performs well here. He's ahead of the Portuguese driver, João Barbosa for Brumos, and Werner and Lally going at it. 3 Porsches in the top 3 positions, make it 4. As it's time to farewell you from Watkins Glen, it's Formula 1 qualifying. Coming up next, the Canadian Grand Prix. Hope you enjoyed that, but please come back with us for the final stages of the 6 hours. We'll see you later on this afternoon. From Formula 1 in Montreal to a track that hosted Formula 1 for 20 years. Yes, we are back live at Watkins Glen, and you're watching the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen.
I see nothing in your eyes, and the more we see, the less I lie. Is it obvious? In my head, this will be all over soon. Pour the salt into the open wound. Is it obvious? Let me in. Is it obvious?
After some 3 months of being in sprint race mode, we are back in enduro mode. From the regular 2.5-hour races, we crank it up to 6 at the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, round 6 of the 2007 Rolex Sports Car Series. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed Formula 1 qualifying. Lewis Hamilton, the sensation continues. And this amazing run for the 99 Gaines Co. Pontiac Riley continues. Hi, everyone. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader with you here, along with Brian Till and Chris Neville. Well, we have 10 minutes more than a regular round still to go here at the Glen. They're being tested on their endurance capabilities today, and we are back kind of like how we started. The 99 car out in front. This time, though, it's not at the hands of Alex Gurney. It's John Fogarty behind the wheel.
This car, the 59, was showing signs of smoke, and I actually think I saw fire inside the engine bays. It makes its way to pit lane. Look out, guys. That could be a hot one.
Changed that motor yesterday after a massive blow up here on the front straightaway, so chance that an oil fitting or something may have come loose.
Brian?
Yep, there's definitely fire down here, guys. It's up on the left top of the car. Now, you wouldn't expect anything to be there. The bodywork is what is actually burning right now. You can see a small fire. The crew is trying to put it out. Yeah, it's just the bodywork. I don't see anything down inside. Maybe
the bodywork, yeah.
There we go, guys. You heard the crew saying it's the bodywork, but there's an oil tank right there. Obviously, some of that oil came out, has gotten on the bodywork and lit up, guys. They're getting that off, and they'll try to take care of him, get it back on track, I think.
72 of Jim Taffel is off track.
Now this will probably bring out a full course yellow. I hear it does just now. Our 6th full course. That's a lot.
This will help out the 99 car and the 10 car, who have assumed 1st and 2nd positions through a sequence of pit stops. Everyone else needed fuel. These guys are on a slightly different strategy. And here he comes. That's the leader, Brian.
Brings it in right on the mark. Crew goes to work down here. John Fogarty sitting behind the wheel. Looks like he's pumping the brakes up a little bit. Perhaps that long brake pedal you guys talk about, how much you have to brake around this racetrack. Flawless pit stop so far. It'll be full fuel and tires. It couldn't have come at a better time. They'll take an opportunity to get this service done, get Fogarty back on track. That earlier overheating problem hasn't damaged the engine at all. They say they're good to go. Crew members cleaning out the radiator, making sure they get all that fuel in there. and Fogarty will be back underway. But this seems to be taking a long time, guys. Bueller finally pulls out. Fogarty's going.
Clear. Fuel, John. Reset fuel and go, go, go.
It drew the applause of the crew members. They were impressed with that as Fogarty is released, and all but Alex Gurney running off track momentarily and filling that front area full of grass. It has been a pretty smooth run for these guys.
But they've caught cautions every single time when they needed one. Here's Jim Taffel going off by himself. He's in the gravel trap. That's the reason for the caution. But the 99 car, other than being the quickest car, is also getting the brakes.
Guys, the 10 car on pit road. Jonathan Cochet brought it in. You're getting me my exercise today, guys. Wayne Taylor back behind the wheel. He's climbed behind the wheel of the 10 car. Should be a routine stop. See Taylor getting in. It's been since Daytona since he's been behind the wheel, so he'll have to acclimate himself back to this race car. Dorsey talked about it earlier. His back a little sore from the practice that he had done over the weekend, but it's amazing how adrenaline makes that pain go away. Taylor now trying to get the car back, but it won't fire. They had to push start it. Now he's gone.
Yeah, all he has done since the Rolex 24 at Daytona was a SunTrust corporate day at Road Atlanta, where they had an additional seat in the car and they were taking VIP guests for rides around Road Atlanta. It was hardly at the cut and thrust of a Rolex Series race. So he is back in the hot pot, so to speak. Let's see how Wayne Taylor, the team principal, performs to keep the 10 car in the mix.
Both the 99 and the 10 were probably within 10 to 15 laps of needing fuel, so as we said, a timely pit stop, Dorsey, for those guys in terms of getting that yellow. And here we see Wayne Taylor just trying to get himself dialed in.
No, as all of us know who've been in race cars for many miles, like yourself, Calvin, your back takes the pummeling. It really does. This type of car doesn't have a lot of suspension compliance. It's very stiff. Every bump you feel, you just get compressed on your spine.
Or as Lee would call it, his inner core, right, man?
That's right.
But great to see Wayne back behind the wheel. He wants this 6-hour race badly to add to that resume. He's won all of the big ones. And this is one that they've just come shy on. They've won other races here at the Glen, but they have not won the 6-hour.
Wayne's got a few miles on him, too. No doubt about that. He knows it. Had a great career.
Well, we are under our 6th full course caution. I can tell you that Jim Taffel has been rescued from that gravel trap. He's been released and he is making his way back to pit road. So this shouldn't be too long. We'll go back racing when we return to the Glen. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. By Ruby Tuesday, simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. And by Lexus and their pursuit of perfection. We're back, we're racing right to the end. We are live here on Speed. We are under caution. Sadly, we will go back to racing shortly. It has been a caution-plagued race, but we have had that in the past here at the Glen. It's that kind of a race, but we've still got plenty of good competition still to come. If you've just tuned in, maybe you turned on for the F1 and you've stayed with us, welcome, hang around. This is what you've missed so far. It's been pretty eventful. The Gainsco Pontiac Riley, Bob Stalling's car, Alex Gurney behind the wheel. It was the team's 3rd pole of the year. The red car out in front, and Alex led the field. Scott Pruitt got hustled out wide. See the blue and white Telmex Ganassi Lexus? He comes back in, but several positions down. Now Patrick Long on the opening lap, the inner loop, perhaps a cut tyre, and it sent Patrick wayward. Pruitt, incidentally, went off in that incident as well. Gurney said, see you later at the restart. Max Angelelli was forceful early and got one back on Bill Auberlin. Darren Law had a first-class seat and a first-class view of Bert Frizzell spinning all by himself. And then Patrick Long came together with Lawson Aschenbach, and did this do anything to the Pontiac to cause this? Watch what's coming up. Not a very pleasant moment for Lawson. And great evasive driving from Jim Matthews and Scott Pruitt there to avoid contact with the GXPR. In the second hour, there was lots of scrambling going on. A TRG car, a Matt Connolly Pontiac came together. And then watch this. Race leader Alex Gurney goes off just for a second into the grass, but it was enough to fill the front air intake full of grass and the car started overheating. Crew went to work to solve that problem. It did cost them track position and time. And then our championship co-leader in GT, Sylvain Tremblay, that's how his day ended. It sent pit lane into a frenzy. People thought this was the opportunistic time to pit. We move on into the third hour, and a special tribute to the late Bob Snodgrass, who grew up in nearby Elmira. And do you believe in passion driving a car? Well, you should, because the 58 Brumos Porsche went to the lead shortly thereafter. The Nonamaker Corvette went off track in spectacular style with the rear deck lid and wing flying up in the car. It got back to pit road okay, and Scott Pruitt had done a brilliant job to get the 01 back into the mix. Memo Rojas was doing an equally impressive job, but then suffered a punctured tyre. And Mark Goosens and David Donohue just went blow for blow and have been racing fiercely at the front of the pack. So that brings you up to date, and it's John Fogarty for Gainsco. Bob Stallings Racing is the leader again from Donohue, and Ryan Hunter-Ray, even though the picture is Jan Magnussen, it is Ryan Hunter-Ray in the car. He has taken over from Goosens. And we look forward to seeing Ryan, former open-wheeler driver, sights on stock car racing. We'll see how he performs in the Daytona prototype. And Craig Stanton, who has had a variety of drives this year, leads the way in Farnbacher Lowell's car in GT over Dominic Farnbacher. And there is a tremendous scrap going on there between some very strong Porsche teams in the GT class. They seem to have the edge on the Pontiac boys this weekend.
Wolf Hensler was in during this last caution. He was leading prior to the caution, and that car been running strong all day. However, just now it's starting to misfire. The team said the coil pack keeps coming loose. They can't zip tie it down, so as the car gets shaken around the racetrack, that coil pack keeps coming loose and they keep having to snap it back together. So that's something that we're going to have to watch the rest of the day. The car very strong, but if it continues to misfire, they're not going to be able to contend here. The 91, which was leading before we came back from Formula One qualifying, Mark Goosens handing the car over to Ryan Hunter-Ray. This is the first time RHR is back behind the wheel of the 91 since he was at Daytona and shared the car with Mark Goosens, Jim Matthews, and Jimmy Johnson. This team's saying they're having a really strong car, really happy about how everything is going right now. They started trimmed out on their aero, so a team that was really looking to try and have a fast car down the straightaway, but with the contact that's been going on the racetrack, they've got some pretty big damage to the left rear of the car, that lower element on the wing, so they've been adding gurneys to the upper wing trying to stabilize that downforce. Brian?
Well, Chris, you know, Lady Luck is very fickle. Scott Pruitt took back the championship lead at Laguna Seca when Max Angelelli had his bad luck. Now more bad luck for Scott Pruitt on this full course caution. You saw the problems early on, set them back. They're working their way back up. But Pruitt, the car just came in. Memo Rojas got out. Pruitt got back in. They got their lap back, but they did not put new tires on it. So since they were at the end of the line, they decided they would come back in and put stickers on. Pruitt should have a good car to go to the end. The 10, Wayne Taylor, up to 6 right now. So Angelelli in that points battle. Angelelli is kind of taking back over the upper hand. But as we all know, guys, there's a long way to go. And as I said, Lady Luck, she's very fickle.
Well, what they can do now is just recalibrate, reassess, and say, right, we've got the big chunk of this race out of the way. We've got a regular Rolex Series round from here on in. We know exactly how to play it. If you're in good shape, you're at the front, you've still got a chance, and we've still got a lot of racing to do here at Watkins Glen. Hope you can stay with us. We're live. You're watching Sports Cars on Speed. Whether it be this, the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, or the shorter race that we do later in the year, you can usually bank on getting some inclement weather. However, today it has been beautiful. Great conditions for this 6-hour event. Thankfully for the teams, not as hot or humid as yesterday, so it's been somewhat more comfortable. But this has been a trying race in many ways. We're steadily working our way back to green. It's John Fogarty, David Donahue, Ryan Hunter-Reay. That's the top three. Then Max Pappas, that 75 Krone Racing car is lurking. They're in a very strong position. Brian Frizzell, the AIM Autosport Lexus, excellent job. They're in the top five from Wayne Taylor, Negri and James. So the two Mike Shank Racing cars, 6 and 7, make that 7 and 8. Then Matt Al-Hadif, Scott Pruitt in the 01 is 10th. Then Valiente Cosmo and Bergmeister is 13th from Shane Lewis and Nick Johnson. So that's the top 15 in Daytona prototypes for you. And in GT, it is Porsche, Porsche, Porsche. Brian.
Max Angelelli just stepping down off the pit box. Wayne Taylor behind the wheel right now. I know he's a great friend of yours, but I also know you got a championship on the line. You're in front of the 01 car right now. When are you going to get back in? Are you guys going to have a car to win this race and take back over the championship?
Yes, we have a good car now. We can win the race, yes. Wayne is going to do his stint, and I want to win this race for Wayne. So, you know, we're pretty focused on this.
Everything good so far? The car good? Has the balance changed at all as the weather's warmed up?
Our car seems to be pretty good today, better than yesterday, without touching it. I don't know.
Well, they're keeping their fingers crossed. They got that thing trimmed out. They're going to try to take it to the front, guys.
He never raced against Jonathan Cochet and didn't really know him, but said he'd watched his progress in his career, and Cochet had done a number of things that had impressed him. That's why he and Wayne Taylor invited him to come along. Cochet has done his stint now. It's the team principal in the car, and a lot riding on that effort, as Brian just pointed out. We're ready to go racing again. Let's have a listen to the Gainsco radio. John Fogarty is your race leader.
Hey, John, I'll call the green. Ready. Green, 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 green.
It's what it sounds like. It's what it looks like when you're out in front like John Fogarty is. Donahue in pursuit. And then Ryan Hunter-Reay, for his first stint of the weekend, is thrown right into the hot spot.
One thing the 99 boys have got right this weekend is the restarts. Boy, they have gapped everyone on that initial launch, Dorsey.
That car is unbelievable how fast it is when they need to get there. And they've had some trouble, but I tell you, they're catching all the brakes too. If it comes down to an outright race, one-on-one, they won't get him.
We talk about the low downforce on the 91 car. Look at Ryan Hunter-Reay just steam by David Donahue there down into the inner loop, taking second place.
Boy, I think he surprised David on the brake zone. They almost made contact when he got on the binders there.
Ryan does not have a lot of seat time in a Daytona prototype recently, but he's a great young driver, and he can jump in a race car and make it go fast.
I'm getting the distinct feeling that there's a stealth mode in the 75. The 75 car with Max Pappas has been laying there 4th and 5th. That Krone Racing car is really good here, and I'm starting to watch that very closely.
Well, we talked about earlier in the show how Max has really struggled with the setup that Colin Brown likes to run. He says that Colin Brown tends to drive the car pretty much like a go-kart on both pedals at the same time. It settles down the rear of the car, and he said, I just can't drive it. It's too loose. So David Brown, the engineer, has really been working hard to get a car that both of these guys can run relatively quickly. But Pat Long is really starting to put the pressure on there as he's trying to make his way back through this pack.
Talk about the different drivers, and a guy that left foot brakes and doesn't use the right foot for the brake versus a guy that uses left foot and the right foot for the throttle only. The setup on the car totally different because of what it does for the balance.
And here comes the Telmex Ganassi car. Pruitt looking racy. Had a little bit of a think about it on Wayne Taylor there, then thought twice. He is on the lead lap, and this car still very much has a big chance of winning.
I think Pruitt's more likely fed up with all the bad luck they've had so far, and he's just about now to kill himself. You know, he's on suicide watch.
Well, one thing that may be good luck, we've got about 2 hours, 27 minutes left in this event when they pitted, and that will be very close to those guys being able to squeak it on just one more stop. So if we see a lot of green flag running, that unfortunate pit stop may come back into Scott Pruitt's and the Chip Ganassi organization's hands.
Wayne Taylor was off on his turning point down there at turn 2. Watch what happens now as he goes up toward the center loop. He wasn't as quick as Pruitt. Pruitt thought about it. Now here he comes.
Guys, we talked about Wayne Taylor not being in the car for a while, not racing, and that's the thing that I think is critical, losing that edge from racing. He was complaining that the 60 hit him there on the restart as well, so perhaps Wayne Taylor a little flustered, a little frustrated, a little out of sorts in that 10 machine right now.
Well, he's getting beaten up by Scott Pruitt here. Slick move from Pruitt and that takes quick work of that after he looked like he was growing frustrated.
It actually was a little bit of, I think he was tentative, Calvin. You know, you saw him in traffic there, and he was a little slow in his turn-ins. He wasn't quite on the money. The other guys around him really pressuring him, knowing he hasn't been in the car in a while.
He's not in the rhythm yet, Dorsey. You can see that just in his lines and where he's kind of flowing around this racetrack. But he'll get it. You know, you get half a dozen laps here. I think Wayne will start to improve his lap times to get into the flow of the race.
Of course, what he doesn't want to do is have an accident or cause an accident. So Wayne's very conscious of the cars around him and not wanting to do the wrong thing either.
Tough point in the race to be inserted, but he will give it his best shot. JC France behind the wheel of the 59, not on the lead laps, back in 16th place. Of course, we detailed their engine fire problems. So it's Fogarty, Hunter Ray. What a dynamic move that was from Ryan. Then Donahue, then Pappas, then Brian Frizzell. You've got to be impressed with that AIM Autosport Lexus. Then it's Negri, then it's James. You've got 3 Lexus-powered cars all in a row there. Make it 4 with Scott Pruitt being in 8th, then Taylor, and then Matt Al-Hadaf in 10th. Chris.
Lee standing by with Kelly Collins. Kelly, you started on the pole in GT, but you had some voltage issues. Have those been resolved?
Apparently they have. We still don't really know what they are. We've changed both batteries in the car. We fell 2 laps back, and now to give you your Pontiac GXP update, we just got 1 lap back and we're charging forward. We got about 2 hours and 20 minutes left, and hopefully we don't have any more problems.
We've seen quite a few cautions in this race. This is the first time the GT cars and the DP cars have been back out on track in quite a few events. Is everybody getting along out there?
Not really. It is one of those things, don't hate the player, hate the game. We're in their way, they're in our way. This track really does, there's so many corners where they can just stick their nose in every single corner on this track, and they're doing it. They're taking it, they're not alongside, and I understand, but it's just very hard for us to race and keep our eyes on and focus on what we want to do and, you know, not worry about getting crashed out.
Good luck getting that thing back to the front. Lee?
Interesting to hear him saying that they're not really getting together out there. Farnbacher Lowles, 1 and 2. Stanton and Dominic Farnbacher going at it, and that's Farnbacher who's just taken the lead.
This is great stuff. We talked about the 87 car to win the championship for Dirk Werner. They needed the 85 to pad the points, not take them away. So right now, Dirk Werner is not going to like this pitch, but Craig Stanton doing a great job coming in as a third shoe in both cars. We understand Craig may jump in both cars here today to try and help out the regular guys.
You know, Calvin, we talked about the championship in the beginning on GT. Werner leading that championship. I just checked in with Greg Lowles, and I said, if the 85 has the better car at the end, are you going to leave him behind the 87? And he said, no, with the 70 out, we're going to let the boys race. So Dirk Werner may definitely not like that, Cal.
Wow, that was wild from Craig Stanton. He had 2 wheels out on the grass. He has got Spencer Pumpelly all over him from TRG, and they're looking for another win as well. Remember, he's combined with Andy Lally and RJ Valentine, and Stanton drops the other side off this time.
Boy, he might just give him a windshield full of dirt, but I don't think so. The one thing about it, he didn't panic when he was in that situation over there. He kept everything together, kept the racetrack and going forward. There's the problem.
69.
That's the 69 Mazda.
Emil Asentato is behind the wheel. Boy, it's been a tough day for the Speed Source. That's 2 wrecked race cars.
Oh, and he's wanting to go for the pit lane. This is not good cutting across right there, but he made it all right.
It'd be good on an oval, Dorsey, going the other way. It's severely tweaked.
It certainly looks like it.
Emil without his regular co-driver Nick Longy this weekend, who's up in Montreal. Here's what happened. It's the 07 Pontiac coming through.
Yeah, and he cut down on him, and of course the contact was light, but at that point you're so vulnerable. Here goes Emil off the side of the racetrack, and wham, into the barrier he goes.
So Paul Edwards forcefully through on the inside. Well, let's go on board Paul Edwards, see what it was like from where he sat.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see what they think about that replay.
Pretty aggressive move there. You have the extra room on the inside there with pit in.
Look at the oil coming out of that car, the 72.
Schwartzbar in strife.
Now that's the car that we saw off in the gravel pit, and maybe it tore an oil line or something. Or if not, you know, its day is done one way or the other. It's leaking a lot of oil.
We talk about this 6-hour event. Of course, we just got past the point that a normal sprint race would be at. And we're starting to see a little bit of drama with cars having mechanical issues. We understand that race controllers looking back at a replay of that 07-69 incident. to see if any action has to take place.
Here again, we'll take a look riding on board with Paul Edwards. He's going to make the move to the inside. Clearly not all the way alongside. There's the contact.
Neal certainly didn't expect that move. Maybe if he had seen him in his mirror, he may have made way, but pretty aggressive move there by Paul.
Well, I think Paul was thinking for sure that he knew he was there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Emil didn't know he was there, but...
Well, we hear that the 59 Brumos Porsche and the 76 Krone Pontiac just blew the chicane. Just blew the inner loop.
Well, if they blew the chicane, they'll end up getting a penalty, but we're hearing about a full course yellow right now. I don't know what that's about yet. Here it is, in fact, the full course. So this one comes out, it's the 7th full course caution, comes out on our 104th lap.
I'm not sure we're going to see many of the lead DP cars pit. We've all been in recently, so they won't want to give up too much track position here. Someone further down in the pack may take a flyer on this, try and get full fuel load and increase their pit window from this point out.
Okay, here's your cars going through the... Oh, that's all oil there.
Yeah.
They're in a big oil down, and they couldn't get turned.
That's from the 72 car, probably.
Yeah, more likely is. And they hit that oil, couldn't stop. Yeah. And it was the 72 car that lost the engine up there, as you see right there. That was all full of oil, and those two drivers didn't make a mistake. They just literally were in the oil, could not stop.
Well, they have to make sure they didn't gain position. The rule there is you can go through the inner loop, but if you gain position, you have to give it back.
Boy, that was that was huge. That oil slick.
You know, that was
so the 10 is in, Taylor's out, Angelelli in. Brian.
You called it, Lee. The 10 in. Taylor didn't stay in the car for long. He wants to win this race, but you know what? He wants Max Angelelli to win the championship. When Scott Pruitt went past the 10 car a little while ago, a few laps ago, the championship complexion changed yet again, and Wayne Taylor not selfish enough to take that away from Max Angelelli. He's going to give him the car, they're going to give him the fuel and tires, and Angelelli's going back to battle.
I think the key there is we're under 3 hours to go. The most a driver can do consecutively is 3 hours, so we expect Max Angelelli to really do some yeoman's work here today. He's had a lot of time in the car already. Jonathan Cochet did a very nice job, in fact. Dropped back initially, but then really seemed to find his lap times. And Wayne Taylor, minimum time here today, but if Max can bring it home, it'll still be a victory for Wayne Taylor as a car owner and driver today.
It's no easy effort either. It's still 2 hours and 11 to go, and that's a big chunk of time, so it's tough. Spencer Pumpelly out of the 66, and we imagine it will be Andy Lally strapping himself back in. They're in contention for this one. The 66 could get another win this season. The only GT car to win twice in 2007 is the 70 Speed Source Mazda. It is out of the race. So too is the 30 Pontiac, the 21 Pontiac GTO-R, Will Nonamaker's 42 Corvette, and Thomas Enger's 11 Samax Pontiac Daytona prototype. The attrition has not been too high.
And I think what's happening here is we're seeing these GT boys pit. They should be able to do it on one more stop if we went green all the way. So pretty tough strategy call to make, but TRG on top of things.
Time for a break. Stay with us. More from the Glen in a moment. We're very excited about Le Mans. It is this time next weekend, and we've got 18 hours live for you from the French Classic. And a big announcement this Monday from Copenhagen as to whether the 7-time winner, Tom Christensen, will be competing. We look forward to that. Chris, what do you have for us?
Lee, Wolf Hensler back to pit lane. This is exactly what this team wanted. They wanted to be able to come in and try and change out that entire coil pack. That's what the team members are doing at the left rear of the car right now. Hopefully they're going to have enough time and not lose a lap. And this team's saying, you know, the car is just so strong. It's just that coil pack is just hurting us whenever it starts missing.
We're too far in.
Right here, coming right. Chris, I think on those Porsche engines, the coil pack is individual to each individual cylinder. So first they have to figure out which cylinder it is that's causing the problem, then get into that situation and pull that pack off, which I'm probably sure has a guard over it as well.
Well, one team that would be very, very excited on quite an emotional day for them is Brumos Racing. Let's hear from them.
We're good.
Watching David Donahue, a great job for both of you guys today. And this team always runs well here, but it seems like the development of this package just gets better and better. A third, the fourth, the last last couple of times out. How good is the car today? Do you have a car to win with?
I think we have a car to run up front, probably with everybody other than 99. That car is in another league. But as far as the rest of the field, we're right there. We're learning the Riley, and it's coming along. It's been really good.
And this is a special racetrack. I said you always ran well here, but also very special to Mike Colucci and certainly Bob Snodgrass. I know it means a lot to come back here, especially with him in your minds and your heart.
Yeah, it does. We always do run well here, and I won here in GT, so I love this track, and it is very special to our team. Bob, this is where he grew up, so it's an important race for us to do well.
Best of luck to you guys today, Darren.
The last 4 race meetings, they have been in the top 6 every time, including a podium at VIR. They even led at VIR. Can they go all the way today? We'll find out. We're back live at Watkins Glen. You're watching the Rolex Sports Car Series. Welcome back, everyone. Lovely day up here in New York, and it's been a pretty gritty race. There's been very few teams that have experienced or enjoyed a faultless race. There's been at least one niggly problem happen to virtually every team, so it's a matter of survival. There have been some that have fallen by the wayside, mechanical or crash damage, and some who are playing the strategy game very, very nicely, but there's still a lot of racing to go here at Watkins Glen. And one team who has played it very, very well is the Gainsco Bob Stallings team, Brian.
Well, Alex Gurney already has his helmet on, getting ready because we're getting into that window. But Alex, you guys were up, then down, now you're back up to the top again. What's it going to take to get this thing to victory lane? Any thoughts of the problems that you had earlier, or are you guys good to go?
We're good to go. Yeah, it's a shame. I just misjudged that situation there and, ended up going off. I was hoping that the GT, figuring that I was the leader, that he'd give me some love, but it wasn't going to happen. Anyways, the Gainsco car is amazing today. And, if we keep it together and the strategy works out okay here with the last yellow, we'll be all right. We know we still got a fast car. It doesn't look like anything's wrong with it.
What is it that makes you guys so strong? I mean, I know you don't want to tell everybody up and down pit road, but, you guys have just been spectacular.
Yeah, just a combination of a lot of things. Really, a little bit of everything. The whole team puts in their part. So, we're not going to tell anybody.
Well, you've heard it before, guys, but there is no I in team, and I think this is the perfect example.
They have done a very nice job today. Very nice job. Well, the 07 of Paul Edwards, the Pontiac GXPR, gets the second chance for GT, so it gets back on the lead lap. However, we've just been informed that Paul Edwards will have to perform a drive-through for this.
This was an unintentional but avoidable contact in the eyes, and that is always a drive-through penalty. So he makes up a lap, but then he's going to have to go in and serve his stop and go.
Here, here's $10. Now give it back.
5 of it anyway.
Yeah. And one thing Mark Raffoff, the managing director of competition, has said, if you go through and trade some paint, that's okay, but if you spin someone out, particularly if you crash him out, he really has no option but to bring you in for a penalty.
That was just a little over-ambitious, wasn't it? Chris, what do you have?
Well, as we look at the closing hours here and some of the fuel strategy going on, some of the front runners, the 91 car, checked in with Bill Riley. He said they are in a position right now where they're still going to have to make 2 more fuel stops unless we have a lot of caution. Now, also checked in with the 75. They're being much more tight-lipped. I think they're in a position where they're going to have to make 2 stops. But I checked in with Jeff Hazel, makes all the calls on that car. He said, we were watching the Formula One qualifying, and we really don't know what's going on now.
We're back to racing. Fogarty at the front. Ryan Hunter-Reay on the inside of David Donohue. Can't quite get it done. Pappas is in the mix. So too is Frizzell and Pruitt. Look at Scott Pruitt on the inside. Here comes the Telmex Ganassi car.
He elbows his way by a car that he used to drive. That's the 04 Ganassi car that he just went by, the 61 machine, driven by Brian Frizzell right now, the gold color, right behind Pruitt. Pruitt has his sights set on Max Pappas, his ex-teammate, right in front of him.
And I have to think that Pruitt is really, really frustrated with all the bad luck he's gotten this year. He wants to get it back to the top no matter what it takes, and that's including aggressive driving.
And we talked about recovery. There's just so much experience in that Ganassi camp. They realize you can't panic when you have a little bobble in one of these longer races. It will come back to you if you do all the right things.
Word from the race officials. The 91 and 10, Ryan Hunter-Reay and Max Angelelli, have been deemed to jump the start. That will hurt. Ryan Hunter-Reay big time. It will help Max Pappas and Scott Pruitt. The two together won this race in 2004.
Well, oh, and somebody off with two wheels there. They saved it. This will bring both cars to pit lane for a stop and go, and that is going to be huge to pay that penalty.
Wow.
Look at Fogarty. He's gone.
Angelelli, this is crucial. I mean, he's going to lose so much track position here. It's unbelievable.
Right at the time when we go back to green. So it's John Fogarty with a healthy lead over David Donohue. There's Ryan Hunter-Reay, will be penalised. Pappas and Pruitt, this will be a good scrap. The former teammates, and then you've got the 39 of Christian Fittipaldi, who is down in 39th position and several laps down due to an earlier problem, trying to play catch-up.
Such a long pit lane at that speed. You see the 91 Ryan Hunter-Reay coming in for his penalty. Drive through. Everybody else is thundering down the straightaway.
No excuses for this from a driver's perspective.
Stop, go, 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 go.
But for Ryan Hunter-Reay, he's not a regular, and this restart procedure is a little bit different to some of the other series. Max Angelelli should know better.
Here we go. Pruitt on the inside of Pappas. Gets it done very effectively. And you want to throw Pruitt a challenge, he will take it with both hands.
He's going to be a bulldog for the rest of this race, I guarantee you.
Remember, he pitted very late, so he's got probably more fuel than anyone right now, so he is in the catbird seat.
Oh, trouble there.
Wow, Pappas doesn't look happy with the car right now. I'm not sure if he has a slow puncture or something, Doris, but he's losing ground.
That's what it looked like, Calvin. It looked like he couldn't get the car to turn. He was way out to the outside, defenseless against anybody attacking to the end.
Let's not forget about 19, Michael Valiente. There he is in the second Ganassi car, the Mission Residential Z-Line Designs car. He is trying to get by Brian Frizzell and gets it done.
Not yet. Not yet, he doesn't.
Brian and Bert have had good close racing experience, particularly this year with their late model series racing. They've been wrecked a few times. They even wrecked each other the most recent round.
That's got to be fun.
Yeah.
If you can't hit your brother, who can you hit?
Those boys so enjoy their racing, though. There's always a smile on their face, even when they've had, you know, not the best of runs in the last couple of years, but right now they're on top of their game. They're with a great young team. Very exciting to see AIM Motorsport compete so successfully this season.
As Valiente thinks about it again, speaking of this front straight, let's show you a replay. Let's revisit the restart and show you what happened with the silver car. Third in line there. There's Ryan Hunter-Reay. The 91 and the 10 deemed to jump the start. Watch the silver car.
Flag station up ahead on the left, right up here. Yeah, I guess he gets a run. There's the green right there. He did, in fact, have a run going.
He did, but, you know, we spoke to Mark last night about this. You're not supposed to sort of like break out of the plane of the other car in front of you, and that was a close call. We didn't really have a good shot of the green flag to see when Ryan made that move.
It's a very late green flag. I did see that because I thought it was already given, and all of a sudden I saw Tanning Miller start waving that flag, and it looked like they were just about underneath her by then.
Scott Pruitt is flying. He's done basically a 146 flat the last time round. He's right up with David Donohue now. Donohue won this race back in 2003. Pruitt took that away from him in 2004. Both would dearly love to win for their own individual reasons here in 2007. But for Pruitt, there is a championship waiting. He leads the way, and the man who is chasing him in second, Max Angelelli, was just penalised, but yet to serve that penalty for jumping the start. Brian has more.
Well, the argument down in the SunTrust pits is that the 16 car right in front of Max Angelelli had a problem on the restart. I just checked with Max Crawford, who's calling the shots on the 16 today with the Dysons in it, as well as Butch Leitzinger. He said, we indeed had a problem at the start. We couldn't get going. We balked a little bit. So we're telling them that's what happened with us, guys. We had a problem. But now the 10 on pit road, and this is going to have huge championship implications. Remember, Pruitt came in with a 5-point lead. That lead went away when he had his problems early on. The 10 went up towards the top of the charts. Now fortune has reversed itself. Pruitt running in the top 3, and Angelelli dropping well back, guys.
He would be livid in that cockpit, shaking his head, just thinking, come on.
And we know what happens to Max when he gets the steam coming out of his ears. He is going to be a demon when he returns to the track.
Well, again, you don't want to compound the problem or the error that you've made. You've got to bring it home, so he has to be careful. He can't get too aggressive in this traffic and get some other penalty today. He just needs to get his head down. But meanwhile, Pruitt is really putting the pressure on David Donahue. Pruitt is hooked up right now. The racetrack has come to the Ganassi boys.
Stepped it up that last lap by just under half a second in his lap pace, Scott Pruitt. So Donahue is under siege here. Meanwhile, Fogarty continues to extend his lead. He just disappeared out of view. He's almost 5 seconds out in front. And the more these two scrap, the more the advantage goes to Fogarty.
Looking at the lap times, Pruitt's running about the same as the leader. I think if he can clear David Donahue, he certainly has a chance of matching Fogarty's lap times, but whether he can catch him, different story.
He's really got his head down right now. I mean, he's got to get by. I think you're right, Calvin. I think he's quicker. He's quicker in front. Another thing around here, all these corners are very, very fast. And when you're tucked up that close behind somebody, you lose the aero downforce on the nose. It makes it difficult.
It's a Pontiac-powered Riley that leads the way from a Porsche-powered Riley and a Lexus-powered Riley. Top 3 positions.
Lee, I just checked in with Darren Law. I said, does David have enough to stay in front of Scott? And he said, you know, Scott is running so trimmed out. We've all talked about that up and down pit road. He said, but we're running a lot of downforce. I think we're a sitting duck down this long straightaway.
Good point. Good point. We'll watch it. Fogarty has extended his lead another 2-3 tenths of a second. Pruitt needs to get this pass done, and he needs to get it done now. Into the inner loop. Has he got enough? No. Donahue hangs tough. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. By Prescription Flomax. And by Porsche. Porsche, there is no substitute. We're back. Here's your race leader. Live at the 6 hours of the Glen, it's John Fogarty. Guy who has enjoyed strong results here in the past. The Bob Stallings Gainsco team finished on the podium here at their very first appearance at Watkins Glen with Bob Stallings himself and Alex Gurney. Can they go all the way and get their first win at Watkins Glen, make it their second win in the Rolex Sports Car Series and second win of 2007? It had helped their championship chances. Gurney said earlier this weekend he still firmly believes they can be champions at the end of this season.
David Donahue has gapped Scott Pruitt here a little bit. I'm not sure. Whilst we're aware there's some traffic issues, but both of these guys ran a lap time about a second faster than our leader, so you're going to see that gap seesaw a little bit, as Darren Law talked about. Very tough around this racetrack, and Kelly Collins certainly spoke about the traffic issues with the GT cars.
I don't think we can take our eyes off Michael Valiente. He's now into the top 5. He's by Brian Frizzell. The 23 just went off the hands of Jörg Bergmeister. Or is Patrick Long? That Pat's back in the car now. So he's been caught up in a few things today, the young Californian.
It's not his favourite spot. I think if he went off in the inner loop again, he had the problem on lap 1. He had a problem here last year when he had a great charge going. Talked recently about Pat Long being really on top of his game. Really says he wants to look at every aspect, every facet of the game. He looks at Sebastian Bourdais over in Champ Car and says the guy just never stops thinking about driving a race car. He's up his fitness regime, moved down to Florida. Says that'll get him home earlier each weekend rather than doing the trip to the West Coast. He said it gives me more time to train.
Well, we've been mentioning Michael Valiente. Wonder how his co-driver feels.
Well, Lee, you know, down at Chip Ganassi Racing, everybody always pays attention to the 01, but Rob Finley, Michael Valiente in the 19. Rob, you had an early stint. I know you struggled this weekend with some problems in practice, but what a great job Michael is doing right now out on the racetrack. He's got to give you guys high hopes for a podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike always steps up and does his job. Yeah, it was a really hard weekend for us. Had a little accident first session. We've been behind the ball the whole time, but these guys at Chip Ganassi, these guys are unbelievable. Our crew guys, they put it all together and got us running again.
Car good, or can you make it even better for Michael before the end?
Well, you know, we're going to try to make some changes. We don't. He wants an extra wicker and he wants some new tires. So once we give him that, should be really good.
what Mikey wants, Mikey's going to get on this next stop. They went to a smaller wicker the last time, guys. It sounds like he wants a little larger one next pit stop.
Drivers always want new tires, don't they, boys?
And more wicker.
More grip, more horsepower.
While I'm there, give me all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Haven't we got some fabulous talent here, ex-open wheel racers? John Fogarty, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Michael Valiante, all out of the Atlantic Series. Very, very competent drivers and super fast. It was a very expensive accident. That was one thing Rob Finlay failed to mention about the crash earlier this weekend. It was not cheap. However, he is thoroughly enjoying not running his own operation anymore, taking his finance and resources to Chip Ganassi and saying, all right, here we are, we're ready to race. You run the package, you run the organisation, we are here. And they're really enjoying this Lexus Riley and being part of the Chip Ganassi with Felix Sabatis organisation. And running top 5 will really keep their spirits high, considering the way the weekend started. We mentioned earlier about Pat Long having an off-track excursion. This is it.
Hard to say, but I think it is the inner loop. It's exactly what happened.
Other side as to where he went off before. Wow, that was a close call there with Max the Axe slicing his way through.
This is Al Hadef. And Orblin dropped something on his way there. Orblin was running out to get in the car and dropped something.
Slight delay there. This will not put them in the window to get to the finish unless we see a bunch of caution. So they're probably going to need a splash of fuel here with an hour 45 left. Expect these guys better run an hour 10, hour 15.
Might have dropped his lucky charm. Had to go back for it.
He either dropped something or something got caught because he immediately pivoted and looked around.
Said they really found something with the car this weekend and the shock setup. Gone down a certain path that they found looking at the setup sheets. It was leading them in the wrong direction. Come back and the tail is off. So is there further drama here with the 05? Maybe this is why they're pitting.
Switch up, switch up.
Belt is missing, they're saying, from the front of the engine possibly.
Crew talking, they're pointing down here. Could be an alternator belt. We've seen these problems before. The crew looking down in this right side pod towards the front of the engine. Anyway, you look at it, guys, it's going to take a long time. It's going to be a lengthy stop. They'll try to get this BMW repaired and get it back on track, but it is so hot right now. The crew member pulling his fire suit down over his hand, using it as gloves, trying to work on this very hot BMW power plant.
What a disappointment. They only stopped 19 laps ago, which would have put them into just one more stop to get to the finish. This takes them out of it and cost them time.
The intensity's rising at the front of the field too. David Donahue has stepped it up and he is eating into John Fogarty's lead. Meanwhile, in GT, this is Dominic Farnbacher. He leads by almost 3 seconds over the sister car of Craig Stanton. The Farnbacher Lowell's team are cruising up front. And then the 06 of Leighton Reese, the Banner Racing Pontiac GXPR, the most recent race winners, are sitting third ahead of Andy Lally and Richard Westbrook, the current points leader in the Super Cup, the Porsche Super Cup champion. He is in 5th place in class, paired with Steve Johnson this weekend at Synergy Racing.
But remember, Lally pitted pretty late under that caution period, so he may be in good shape fuel-wise for one more stop. These guys may be tight.
That's the gap, first to second in GT, and it's a much longer gap back. It's about 8-9 seconds from second to third from Craig Stanton to Leighton Reese. Been a pretty fascinating duel in GT. They've been switching it around, they've been sharing the lead, but pretty much all day long it's been Farnbacher Lowell's at the top of the ladder.
Craig Stanton really has such a great resume made behind him. Typically runs in Porsches, Dorsey. Very comfortable in these cars. When he's not racing, he's out there every weekend coaching other guys at Porsche Club of America race weekends, and just when he jumps in one of these cars, he's immediately at home. So even if we haven't seen him in a spell, he's going to get the job done.
You know, when you go out there and coach other drivers, it just keeps, you keep reiterating the things that make race cars go fast. It makes you better. It makes you think while you're driving. Still problems on the 05, though.
Yeah, that is crushing, considering they had a good, strong top 10 run they were looking at. rewind the clock several years to 2003. Some good old tough Daytona prototype racing between Scott Goodyear and Didier Tays. The Brumos and Bell Motorsports teams going at it for the win in the 6 hour. It was David Donahue, Mike Borkowski and Scott Goodyear who took the win and made the Brumos boys feel on top of the world. Great way to finish that race. Now can this man here, David Donahue, who was right in the middle of that battle, go all the way and become our 6th different winner from as many races and create Rolex sports car history?
He was making really good time on John Fogerty, the leader. However, he made up 2 seconds. Somehow he lost 2 seconds. It's all traffic related, isn't it, Kel?
It is, and look at this. This is critical. The 87 car is in, and again, with hour 38, they're going to struggle to get to the finish without a splash of fuel. So 66 car Andy Lally, who now runs in 3rd spot, may be able to squeak it. It's going to be very tight here if we don't get more caution.
And what does that remind you of? Laguna Seca.
Absolutely.
Laguna Seca, the 66 went all the way. Brian?
I checked with Greg Lowes a little while ago. He said, we may be able to stretch it and do it on one more stop with yellows and things like that, but we don't want to do that. We won't have the tires at the end, so where the 66 may try to stretch it, the 87 should be a much fresher car. Chris?
Brian just checked in with the 66. Kevin Buckler saying that they should be able to do this on one stop. They did come in and pit a little while back while everybody else stayed on the racetrack, so Buckler really taking advantage of that caution, getting the car in. Andy Lally now in a position where he's just got one more stop.
Looked like he had a fair bit of push there coming off that corner, didn't it, Dawson? A lot of steering input and running wide.
Now, they talked about the other day when the track got hot, and it's pretty warm outside right now, that's what happened. The cars can lose grip in the front. Certainly did look like the front didn't want to turn in.
Ryan Hunter-Reid right alongside Andy Lally there. Ryan is in 11th position after being deemed to have jumped the restart and had to serve a stop and go. And just to update you, the 05 Siegel Sport BMW with Bill Aublin behind the wheel is back out on track. Here he is.
And what happened there, they were looking, they said the belt was off. Brian Till gave us the mention that it was the oil pump belt, and that's a very bad situation. Now they put it back on, but they ran a half a lap with no oil pressure whatsoever. Now, will the Dynan BMW live? That's the question.
Well, Dorsey, I checked in with Rick Mayer, the engineer, and he said, yeah, we didn't have the oil pump for half a lap, but remember, this is really a detuned street engine, so it's not that highly strong. I said, that's pretty optimistic view, pretty glass half full. He said, hey, I'm an engineer. It's not glass half empty, glass half full. To the engineer, it's just the glass is too small.
Well, Steve Dynan, the engine builder somewhere, is pulling out what's left of his hair as we speak.
Yeah. Got to give a shout out to this team in general. Joey Hand's come in here and done the job we all expected him to do, just be able to be immediately on the pace. And young Matt Al-Hadaf really didn't put a foot wrong here today, keeping the car up in the top 10, sometimes as high as 7. So, you know, give a shout out to him. He's really starting to learn the ropes here a little bit.
You know, you see those advertisements on TV where they take the oil out of the car and they run it for a day or they drive it around. That's a lie. That does not work. That does not work. Don't do that at home.
It's John Fogerty, 6.5 seconds out in front of David Donahue. Scott Pruitt is holding steady in 3rd. Michael Valiente, while we're away, has leapfrogged Max Pappas, who is in 5th now. Then it's Brian Frizzell, Negri, James, Angelelli, and Guy Cosmo for Doran, rounding out the top 10. Here's the 06. This is Leighton Reese, the team principal at Banner Racing, and he sits 2nd, Chris.
Yeah, Lee, right now Leighton carrying the baton for Pontiac with the problems with the 07 car. It's back on the lead lap, but it is well back from the 06. So Leighton Reese, Tim Lewis, Andy Pilgrim trying to make sure that Pontiac can hopefully get that car back in winner's circle, go 2 for 2 after their win at Lime Rock. And Andy Pilgrim in that car with them just 2 weeks ago while the 06 was at Lime Rock. Andy Pilgrim won the World Challenge race at Charlotte that weekend. So this team, all 3 drivers, seen a lot of success lately.
And there's Speed World Challenge here this weekend. So Andy is a busy man of late. The Ruby Tuesday Porsche, Pat Long trying to get by Leighton, and he does so. Time for a break. Stay with us. So much more to come. You cannot believe, while we're away, David Donahue has run off track while in a very strong 2nd place in this race. Down in the boot, the tight right-hander, and is limping his way back. This is the at Speed Motorsports Porsche, off track as well. That's Mark White behind the wheel.
Well, What do you think? I mean, it's already happened right there. I don't know if they made contact or not. You see David Donahue up on top here. He's going along. He's getting out of the gravel, so that's good for him. However, the Porsche is stuck in the gravel. It's probably going to bring out a full course caution. Here he is on pit lane.
Damage to the left rear there, Dorsey. So I'd imagine that David was making the move. Oh, now he's kicked it in gear and getting out of the car. It's bad for the mechanics. They've got to reach in there, get that car back in neutral, get those wheels stopped before they can do the wheel change. I'd imagine he was down on the inside of the 28 car, and maybe they just took each other out there.
Well, what I heard was that going into the corner, the Porsche, the little GT car, flashed his brakes, and he thought, well, he's giving me the corner, so he turned in. Well, look on the onboard, see what happens. There's a little brake right there. Oh, see, that's how easy that can happen.
That was late, Dorsey.
That was very late. You would have to assume that the guy knew you were there, but you can't assume in this situation. And we do have the full Porsche yellow now.
Brian?
Aaron Law is in the 58. He's gotten underway. A lot of rocks still coming out from underneath that car. They didn't take the time to blow him out, but significant damage to that left rear tire. Cut it down. That's all she wrote, guys.
Hey, mate, can you grab David? Is he close by just to ask him his take on it? Because it seemed like it was an ambitious move from a long way back, but he was on the pace. He was going for it. He was vying for a win. You can understand that things were running hot.
Taking advantage of this situation is our leader, John Fogarty, in. Going to see a driver change, and Alex Gurney will try and take this 99 machine to the checkered flag, and hopefully first, Doss.
Boy, but an hour and a half to go in the race. I don't think they can make that without some cautions.
Back to the Red Bull pit, Brian.
Typically, I'd say I see frustration on the face of a driver. I don't see frustration, David. I see anger. What happened out there?
Well, I mean, we're trying to get through traffic, and I came up by the toe of the boot behind, and there's an I-11 in front of me, quite a ways in front of me, and he tapped his brake lights on the straightaway, and I figured he knew I was coming. I flashed him back, and I went under him under braking, and obviously it wasn't a signal to me because he turned down, and I thought he was going to give me room when we arrived there, but wasn't any room.
Well, we talked about how fickle Lady Luck is. She raised her ugly head again, Chris.
Brian, Max Pappas bringing the 75 machine to pit lane, handing over to Colin Brown. This team really needed this. They were still going to need 2 stops. We're probably still going to need another stop after this unless we have a lot of caution out there. But this team really wanted to get to pit lane. It looked like the rear tires were getting pretty worn out for Max Pappas. Now, this is one of the teams that has not won this year, so trying to break through, make it our 6th different team to win. Surprising they haven't won, because if you take out their performance at the Rolex 24, they have led more laps than any other team by almost 50%. Brian?
Lee Keane taking over from Dominic Farnbacher. They brought the number 85, the leading GT car in. Some signs of battle. Scuff marks down the left side of this car, but really no bent sheet metal. It's been running that close, paper thin, between them and the competition. Lee Keane trying to find victory here at Watkins Glen, guys.
Paper thin sounds like you're breathing right now, Brian.
Absolutely.
Brian, you may want to start joining me in the mornings, mate.
Now, let me tell you what happened back there with that accident. You know, it was a miscue. Basically, David Donahue saw the driver pump his brake pedal, you know, thinking it was a signal. But what happens in these long-distance races, if you get a long pedal, what you do going down the straightaway is you take your left foot, you go over there and pump the pedal up once. I think that's what's happened. You know, take a look and you'll see on board from David, watch the brake lights. See, now I think he's just setting his brake pedal. It wasn't an indication to pass me.
There's a big commitment by David there. You can't assume the guy's going to let you through if he's that deep into the corner.
And like I say, that's a normal procedure to go over there and just dab your brake pedal.
Chris?
Andy Lally just brought the 66 Porsche to pit lane for service. Now I checked with Kevin Buckler saying, is this the last stop you're going to need? He said, we got an hour and a half left. He's going to have to come back in for more. But we wanted him out on some fresh rubber. That's one thing we've seen with the Porsches this year, is the longer the stint is, that car seems to just fall off because of that mass. That engine in the back really wears out those rear tires.
So what can they do? About 1 hour 15, 1 hour 20? So
yeah, that's a stretch for a GT, so they need a little bit of yellow here to help them out. And we've seen them stretch at Laguna, but they need a lot of help.
But what we've seen here is for sure, every time there's a yellow, it's because of this. You're in the gravel trap, and most of these yellows are 5 to 7 laps long. That is a long yellow.
So it may work, but it's a stretch. Still lots to play out here at the Glen. Far from over. We're wondering just who will win here today, but just a little over a decade ago, our own Dorsey Schrader experienced his 2nd victory here at Watkins Glen back in the Trans Am days. This is Big Bad Boris said he's about to put a move on here. Some pretty cool-looking old Trans Am cars, Dorse.
Don't say over a decade ago.
This was at your 50th birthday, wasn't it?
Oh, that's worse as Hobbs.
Well, this is good. You were the man that day. A very convincing victory in your Mustang. Nice stuff.
There's old Tom Gloy boys. Good day for us. It was a lot of fun, those old Trans Am days.
They were great race cars, weren't they, Dawes?
They certainly were.
That's a pretty cool onboard shot. Well done. Looking quite youthful and sprightly.
Trimmed up a little bit there, Dawes. Got rid of the mullet.
Hey,
And
look at this.
Dawes wasn't the only one from the commentary side of things to enjoy victory. Both Brian and Calvin did
2007 for me.
To pit road.
Waldo Negre, the leader on pit road. It was a routine stop until they lowered the car. They lowered it on one of the airlines in front, so they had to get that adjusted. Now some work going on in the passenger compartment. So from the lead to the back, it looks like they're working either with the cool box or a battery over in the passenger compartment, but this is going to drop them well back. This team running so well, and it hasn't been all Negre. Mark Patterson, you got to take his hat off to him. He came here, ran well, 2 seconds faster per lap than he's ever run here before. So Patterson certainly doing his job to contribute.
We said earlier that Mike Shank Racing comes to the fore at this racetrack. While one car has experienced problems, the other is in the lead of the race. Ian James in the 6th. The Playboy entry leads the way. Chris?
Lead down with the 66 back in GT. We just saw Andy Lally in pit lane. We thought there was a tire issue. In fact, RJ Valentine, there was a tire issue on that car.
About it, Chris, the tires are delaminating on the edges. It's a testimony of Andy's ability to be able to drive a car on ice. He did a great job. You can see this here coming apart, and you can see us going into court here. So we have a problem, and I think hopefully the next set will mitigate that problem.
Well, this team was hoping to do it in just one more pit stop. Because of that issue, now they've had to make 2.
Well, you see the little holes there. Those are blisters that have popped. That was a blister tire. That's due to heat. Now, on the other side of the coin over there where it was completely worn out to the tread, that's a wear issue. So that tire was used up.
It was. Where do you think RJ's from?
Boston?
Send over the khakis. Randy.
Hey, I don't think you and I are in a position to
I didn't say
criticise accents.
Big day for English drivers, though, mate. Ian James out front, Lewis Hamilton on the pole.
Well done.
That Aussie even sneaked into the top 10, you know.
Yes, he did. Indeed,
Where is he
did.
now?
Hey, Chris, have you got a moment, Chris?
Yes, Lee, what can I do for you?
Well, we saw Dorsey and Brian and Calvin get a victory here. I wasn't a racer, so that's my excuse. Where was your win at Watkins, Glen?
Well, I only raced here once in Trans Am back in '98. I think I came up 4th or so.
I'm just joking.
But there were like 55 cars in the race, so I think that's pretty good.
Just giving you a hard time, mate. We're working our way back towards green, folks. Can this car win its 2nd GT race of the year? Can it go all the way on this fuel stop? It will be a long stretch for Andy Lally, that's for sure. Race officials are sorting out the winners of the 2nd chance. Can you believe it? The 23 got it again. Reminding you that Thursday on Payback, legendary martial arts fighter and pro wrestler Ken Shamrock gives his dad the ultimate Father's Day gift. You need to tune in and see what it is. Payback, Thursday at 9 Eastern. Exclusive to Speed. We're still under caution here at Watkins Glen. I just want to correct something I said just before we went to the break. It wasn't the 23 Ruby Tuesday Porsche who was the lucky dog because Patrick Long is on the lead lap. It was the 76 Krone Pontiac. So my apologies, and they're getting the 1 lap more indication. Back to green in another lap.
And this is a big strategy move here. Darren Law topping up with fuel. They had poor track position, one of the final cars on that lead lap. So this is really a no-brainer. Top him up, and if we get a little bit of caution, they're going to be in great shape to make it to the checkered flag.
At the top of the show, Cal, I asked you if we're not going to get a 6th different winner, who stands the best chance at being the repeat winner? You said the 99. What does John Fogarty say?
Well, Lee, we'll find out. John, you guys started so well and then back towards the front again. How hard is it to keep your spirits up and just know, hey, if I just keep doing what I'm doing, we're going to get back to where we need to be?
It's pretty easy with a car like this. You know, the number 99 Gainesville Auto Insurance Pontiac Riley is so hooked up. I mean, it's really fun to drive. It's serious pleasure, and it's a testament to the whole team, and especially our engineer Kyle Brannon. You know, we had some grass in the rads early on, and that put us back to the back. But the way yellows fell, everything sorted themselves out, and the quick cars are up front. I think we got a really good shot. I think everybody's got to wait one more stop, but it's still going to be a sprint to the end.
I'm not asking you to be too bold, but A, how are you on fuel? And really the bold answer is going to be, can anyone touch you guys?
I don't know how we are on fuel. You can ask Kyle. I came in for a pit stop and they stuck the fuel probe in, so I assume they filled it to the top. We're good. I think we got a good chance.
That's what you call quiet confidence, guys.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I've won a couple races around this place before, and if I had a choice of the field of what I would like to drive, I think the 99 would be my pick.
That's been unbelievable. I mean, in the warm-up this morning at one point, they were over a second faster than anyone out there. Just incredible. You don't see that in this series because typically the field is so tight.
And they've been on the top of the charts of every single practice, and not by even a little bit. I mean, they've been the dominant car. It's the fastest car. They haven't had the best race luck as the year's gone on, but so far, knock on wood for these guys.
Steve Cameron yesterday, and he said he was up there in the inner loop watching the cars come through there, and he just said, wow, the 99 car is just on a different playing field, just so much more speed through there. They're carrying a lot of downforce in the car, but you know, you got to trade that off with the straightaways, but they're making it work here.
And their restarts have been impeccable. I mean, watch this car at the restart. It just clocks the field going down into turn one.
Well, downforce will certainly help that a little bit, be able to generate a bit more tire temperature and get the car out in front of the pack.
And this man here, Max Angelelli, after serving, not wanting to serve that drive-through penalty, finds himself back in second place. Does he still stand a chance? Where's he on his fuel cycle? Ian James is the race leader, then Angelelli. We're coming back to green. It's Gurney, Pruitt and Valiente, the top five. We've got a real race on our hands here. 13 cars, all on the lead lap. Some 4 odd hours into this race. Let's go. Let's do it again.
Green.
Notice there, Gurney was very conservative on that restart. He did not want to incur a penalty with that lap machine right in front of him. He could have been more aggressive, but Angelelli to the front.
I think Angelelli came a little bit early as well. I think he may have come out of the line a little bit.
We'll know about that shortly.
There you go. Oh, just got the word. Just got the word from officials.
Now,
he has been pinged.
Now, next to the oil pressure gauge, they better get a blood pressure gauge hooked up because Max will have to come through the pits. He will be livid.
I don't like to go out on a limb like that and make predictions, but that was obvious. He jumped early.
He did. I mean,
what is he thinking? He knows he's got the speed. They got themselves back in the game. Second time today he's jumped.
And that one looked to be a big jump.
So Gurney was, he did it perfectly. He didn't get right off the tail of the 16. He just sat back, nice and conservative, realizes that he's got a lot more fuel, about 20 laps more fuel than these two guys, so he's in good shape.
Wayne Taylor is furious down on pit road. Here's the replay. Watch the second car in line, the blue SunTrust Pontiac. Watch the green up to the top left.
Focus there at the starter.
He's gone. He's broken out of line.
Absolutely.
Simple as that.
You don't have to be perfectly behind the car in front, but you can't have all 4 wheels or the whole car inside the other one.
This one's going to be the tattletale. Watch for that starter up on the left. You can't move alongside till, well, I guess that says it all. I mean, there's no disputing that call, I don't think.
You have to defend her a little bit. That's why the rules are in place.
It's on the TV. Well, they're arguing opposite to us.
They're seeing it differently, as you'd expect.
Wow. So Max, he's not doing anything at the moment. He's staying out there, and rightly so. I guess until the window closes, and definitely.
That will be the next lap when the window closes, definitely. He will be coming in, I'm sure.
Well, Brian Till is down there in the middle of the SunTrust camp. What's going on, Brian?
When you guys were asking me to say what was going on down here, I couldn't really repeat some of the verbiage. Wayne, frustration didn't even come close to describe what's going on with you guys. What is your understanding on this restart procedure?
Well, firstly, I'm not really sure the decision they made on the first one. However, the rule does say that you cannot pass until you cross the white line. The second incident, you can clearly see they've just reshown it, and we were behind the white line. We might have been next to him, but we were behind the white line. The first line, they want to make good racing out of this. The car had a throttle problem. It was 3 laps down. So that made sense for them to pull us in and give us a 30-minute penalty. It's great racing.
Obviously, Wayne Taylor, very, very frustrated, guys. Like I said, that's somewhat of an understatement, and he sees things a little bit differently than you guys do.
Brian, our explanation as it was told to us is that you can pull over and look. You can get out of line, but you cannot break the plane of the car, back of the car in front of you. In other words, you can move out of line, but you can't pull alongside. And unfortunately, Max was clearly alongside, his left front wheels alongside the right rear of Max Angelelli, and that is, by my understanding, what drew that penalty.
Okay, can they regroup again? They're going to need some help, I think, from this point on, and the race is running out of time. Let's take another look here, Dors.
Okay, again, you can pop out and take a look. That's what's going to happen, but it doesn't stop there. Now he goes to launch. Now he's gone alongside. Now, there hasn't been a pass made, but the rule is you can't get alongside and break the plane of the car that's in front of you.
You can't even have the car outside of the shadow of the car in front, so to speak. You can't have all four wheels over to the right-hand side of the leader there. So remember, you can jink out a little bit, but you can't be all the way out, as Mark Raffoff was explaining to us.
And that, of course, you know, the early way I understood it is exactly how Wayne was, that you couldn't make a pass before the start-finish line, but on a restart now, you cannot pull out and go alongside. You can only just peek out. That was more than a peek.
Just had the Managing Director of Competition, Mark Raffoff, in the booth here to confirm that. And
I applaud him for doing that, to make sure that we understand exactly the point of view. And it was the way I was talking about.
Yeah, spot on, Dors, spot on. So Ian James resumes the lead of the race, but he's got Gurney and Pruitt all over him. This is good stuff. Valiente's in the mix, and Colin Brown back behind the wheel of the 75. He's in there as well. Just got a quick glimpse of the green machine. Here comes Oswaldo Negri's back, and Darren Law. They're going to follow and try and push each other way back up into the top 10 and still vie for a win.
And those are both good drivers with good cars under them, so working together like this, or pushing each other forward, will work.
And a vital few more laps of fuel on board. That could be really pivotal at the end of this race.
Calvin, spot on. I checked with Mike Colucci under that last full course caution on the very last lap. They brought the 58 back in. I ran down to ask him why, and he said, because now we're in our window. We can make it to the end. I said, are you sure? And he gave me a wry smile and said, well, I think we can. I hope we can. So it's going to be really close, but the 58 may be good to go.
Well, Calvin, we said some of these cars with the mileage, we said at the beginning of the show that in this 6-hour format, this mileage might come into play.
Serving the stop and go. Angelelli, second time today. And look, he's talking to Wayne Taylor on the radio.
He's Italian.
Talking with your hands. Comes naturally.
Well, like I said, they need a blood pressure gauge right next to that oil pressure gauge, because both are in jeopardy when he comes back to green.
Well, no doubt there'll be a post-race meeting between Wayne Taylor and Mark Raffoff, but it's pretty black and white, isn't it? It's pretty straightforward. So Ian James in the Playboy Lexus Riley has his hands full with Alex Gurney. Great moment for Ian James to be leading a Daytona prototype race.
Gurney will be patient until Pruitt closes right in on him. He can afford to wait a couple of laps here. We have to assume that the 99 machine will be a little bit quicker than the 6 car if we look at lap times from earlier in this race. But right now he realizes the 6 car definitely needs to stop. They may be good to go, but if Pruitt gets right behind him, he's going to have to be careful that he doesn't lose position. He wants to win here today. He needs that win badly.
The 6 led earlier this year. Someone dropped the wheel off there. The 6 led at Homestead Miami Speedway earlier this year, and this is big for Lexus because they are shadowing Pontiac in the manufacturer's chase and the championship chase in Daytona prototypes. There's only 10 points between Pontiac and Lexus, and here we've got 2 Lexus in the top 3 positions.
And Ian James has been in this car nearly 2 hours. They brought the car in just shy with 3 hours to go, which means he can do it under the rules and not exceed that time limit, so he's going to be one tired puppy, but the adrenaline will be flowing, Dors.
And Scott Pruitt just then got held up quite badly as you see him work their way through traffic. Scott was the odd man out. First 2 cars get through pretty cleanly. Gurney's wanting by now.
We may have another visitor here shortly, and that's Mark Goosens. He's down into the 145s, the mid-145s. He is flying.
Valiente, Colin Brown, duking it out, going through traffic as well. They want to get in on this mix.
It's so open. This is wide open. This can be anyone's.
Well, I got to say, with Grand Am Racing, they belong on tracks like this, permanent facilities, you know, really nice racetracks where they can really let it all hang out. We've been seeing that all day.
How would you feel if you were Mike Shank? Let's find out.
Mike Shank Racing did a great job today, but Mike, who are you more impressed with? Your pro guys, Ian James and Oswaldo Negre, or John Pugh and Mark Patterson? These guys have done an awesome job.
The later two did a great job today. They did exactly what we asked, which is keep on the lead lap and in close proximity to the leaders. Did a great job, gave the car back to the pro guys. Both doing a good job. We got a little electrical problem on 60, but we'll see what happens. We're going to try to make it.
Team doing a great job, and obviously some of the best looking equipment out here. And Mike, I'm not talking about your cars, but
that explains why you're hanging around down there.
It's all right, Brian. I'm sure Leslie's not watching.
Yeah. Brian's called all the other pit stops from a distance today.
Here we go. This is a good scrap here. Valiente is up on the back, and he's got a look at Pruitt. The 05 is not on the lead lap with Bill Aublin behind the wheel. There is the Luggage Express car. But this is Valiente. This is Colin Brown. If you weren't with us in our first show between 11 and 1, the big news this week to break is that Colin Brown, the 18-year-old, is on his way to NASCAR. He has signed with Roush Fenway Racing. He's going to do some ARCA races this year, full season of the ARCA Remax Series next year, vying for the Rookie of the Year title, and we wish him well. But first and foremost, Roush Fenway Racing say, hey, you need to finish your 07 sports car season first. Go and win that title. Go and win that championship. And if he and Max Pappas can win here today, they'll be right up in the mix.
Talking to Colin, he said the one thing I've got written in my contract, I can come back and do some sports car racing next year. He said, I love this. I don't want to give it all up right now. He said, I want to combine both next season.
You know, Jack Roush, I drove for Jack for many years, and he has a driver development season or a plan going, which really helps these guys get what they need to make it to the top. You know, he starts you out in the ARCA and puts you in the truck for a while, then move you into Busch if you need be, and just keep it going. Drive all the cars you can, learn what you can.
I'll tell you what, Ian James is doing a tremendous job at the head of this field. He's actually gapped Alex Gurney right now, so I'm not sure if Alex is being told. And we see the 16 machine car, 16 machine in trouble.
Chris Dyson is behind the wheel. Flew in late this weekend. He had testing duties in his American Le Mans Series car out at Mid-Ohio. So didn't get as much time in this car as he'd like this weekend. And there's the legend, Hurley Hayward from Brumos Racing. Almost 5 hours down, just a little over 1 to go here at the Sahlen. 6 hours of the Glen. It's the first serious endurance race we've had since the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and it has been an interesting one. The downside, perhaps too many cautions. But we have got some great racing for this final hour. And Ian James has handled the pressure that Alex Gurney applied and now boasts almost a 2-second lead.
Well, one thing we've got to think about here, Ian James has less fuel in the car, so the car will be lighter. There's kind of a sweet spot, Dorsey, within the run where the fuel load goes away and the tyres are still good. But I think as this run goes on and his tyres get a little bit weaker, I think the others should come back at him.
Yeah, but I tell you, it's a great feeling for Ian James to be running that 99 car. We've not seen anything able to do that.
Brian?
Hey guys, Rob Dyson has collected many trophies here at Watkins Glen in the past. His son Chris just came in. Look what came out of the car, out of the front end. Look at the amount of rubber pickup. Rob, have you ever had a trophy that weighs this much from Watkins Glen?
Only never here.
And never with Dorsey driving, right?
Never with Dorsey driving. No, we had other forms of pickup with Dorsey. Anyway, you know, it does go to show you how staggering. Each one of these must weigh about 15, 18 pounds.
A lot of rubber out there on the track, guys. They're battling lots of things. Pickup's one of them.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a big ball of rubber like that got built up in my car. It was Porsche's, as a matter of fact, big ball of rubber like that. And it came out under braking. It was at Sebring in the hairpin. And when it came out, it came in front of the tire, and it almost turned me upside down. It blew the whole rear bodywork off. I thought the suspension broke, and it was one of those big balls of rubber.
Sounds like a driver excuse to me, Dorsey.
He got me good on that one.
That was good.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So let's work our way through this systematically. Pruitt still trying to get up there with Gurney. The 10 of Angelelli is in again, but this is for a different reason. Fuel and tyres. He'll stay into the end. Look at this, something's gone on with Ian James. All of a sudden, Alex Gurney finds himself in the lead. Traffic has affected Ian James, and power to Alex Gurney.
Well, it stacked everybody up because look, right behind him now is Scott Pruitt. And of course, Bill Oberlin in the 4th car there is not on the same lap, but he's fighting nonetheless.
Well, Valiente's not too far behind Pruitt. Then you've got Brown, then you've got Goosens, who is flying at the moment.
Well, remember with the 10 car, they pitted on lap 105, which is the same lap as Ian James. These other guys have 20 more laps of fuel in, so the 10 car was not going to make it. They're now within their window, and I think importantly, they're making a pit stop where they'll stay on the lead lap. They need caution, they need some help.
So what do you do if you're the 6? What do you do if you're Ian James, Mike Shank?
He has to pit. You know, if we look at him in comparison with the 10 car, they're on the same fuel stop. So I would think they have to pit. We know the Lexus gets great mileage, a little bit better than the Pontiac, but not that big.
Well, he enjoyed his moments of glory up front, so he might as well come in now and get the fuel he needs.
They're still very much in this, though, I think. The Playboy car has run well. John Pugh, it's only his 2nd race with Ian James. Replay of the lead. Pass.
Oh.
One side and the other.
One of the Corvette GT cars gets split. They go around both sides of it. And look at Pruitt reading the traffic too, knowing which way to go.
Just good clean racing though. Ian realized that the momentum was lost, didn't try to block the car that has really been the fastest car. You saw Ian there just slide a little bit wide. Car's getting a little bit loose on him, Dorsey, coming off the inner loop.
Chris, tell us more about Goosens.
Well, that last caution really played into the 91's hands. As we remember, a couple of restarts ago, Ryan Hunter-Reay got caught out on the restart and brought in for a penalty. Mark Goosens jumped behind the wheel on that last caution, so the team got to catch back up. They think they have a strong car. Talking with Bill Riley, he said, we are going to have to come back in, but we're in that window now. So they're looking for a caution, hopefully to get him in, get him fueled up and back out on the racetrack. But they are still concerned about the downforce they've lost on the rear with the contact they had.
Well, if they have to pit, I think there's a bunch more guys going to have to pit because they stopped on lap 125. The only guys who stopped later than those who are really a factor here today is the 60 machine, the 58, and the 76. Nick Janssen was the last of the real hopeful winners here today to pit.
Well, we're under an hour left in the race. Obviously, if a caution does happen, all those pit strategies are going to be for naught.
Good to see the 69 Speed Source Mazda back out there after that heavy contact earlier in the spin at turn 11 coming onto the front straight.
Of course, the 70, the teammate car with a big accident after a suspension piece broke. Sylvain Tremblay, pretty shaken up by the way it sounded.
The DPs work their way through the GT traffic and get through cleanly. And this is ultimately frustrating for Bill Auberlen to be running on the same pace as the guys at the front and not being on that lead lap. That hurts.
Yes, it does. I said that the Mazda guys were going to have a long day. I didn't really think it was going to be as long as it really is.
No, it's been a tough month for those boys. They look so strong after 3 or 4 races, and that's just all gone wrong these last couple of weekends for them.
You know what makes the run from the 99 even more impressive is that a variety of teams went away and tested since Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. The 99 Gainsco car did not. So they've come here off the back of having those clutch problems at Laguna Seca, rolled it out, been blisteringly fast all weekend and continue to lead. And right from the outset of this weekend, it pretty much looked like this was their race to lose. Let's talk GT for a moment, Chris.
Well, you look at the front of that GT grid and you think, how did Andy Lally get up there after the problems they had with those blistering front tires? But the team just got so lucky under that caution. They got him in exactly when those tires started getting those blisters. So Andy Lally, so lucky here today. They could possibly come away from with the win, but they are going to have to come back to pit lane. Now the 07, another car that had alternator problems early on in this race. It seems that the voltage issues are taken care of right now. That car back into contention after it was down a couple laps and really putting some fast laps down the racetrack. Before he went to caution, Paul Edwards was 2 seconds quicker than all the other GT cars on the racetrack. He did come in for fuel and tires, but they also are going to have to come back in for one more pit stop. You drop a little bit further back and you look at the 26 car, the Allegra Motorsports. They typically run the 22 Porsche. However, that car sustained major damage in practice after a crash, so they went to the 26 car, which is really their test car for the season. But this team, they won the Rolex 24 earlier this year, coming back strong here today. This is the strongest we've seen them since the Rolex 24.
That 81 Porsche, you just got a shot of there. Richard Westbrook, big crash, the Stevenson Corvette.
Oh, and it's in a very bad spot. That's coming out of the...
Oh, tight there.
Yeah, it's extremely tight. That is...
Okay, we're going to see some action on pit lane, boys. This is exactly what Ian James needed. He needed a pit. He's got the yellow.
So
this boys will be fired up.
Yeah, they can complete their final stop and go all the way. Now we're going to have...
exactly what happened, if I had help or not, or just lost it. Be clear to go to make it to the end, hopefully.
That's the same area that Lawson Aschenbach crashed the Pontiac earlier, exactly coming out across the tunnel turn.
Vic Rice in the 97 Corvette for Stevenson Motorsports, and here we've lost. That's the Dandelion Ross Smith car, the TRG Porsche.
Wow,
65, and Brian Sellers is behind the wheel. Is he on our timing and scoring? It says Brian Sellers. So it's been an eventful day for that car.
Side by side here.
Oh, that was a big hit from Vic.
Huge hit, and of course, nowhere to go. The 65 just collects the spinning Vic Rice. That was a huge hit.
Thankfully, he was there at the tyre barrier and not further on the metal Armco. That could have been so much worse.
Yeah, that tire wall was put there. That was a corner that always scared me here, Calvin.
Yeah.
You come up out of the bottom of that hill and you go across that tunnel, the car loosens up real bad and you have nowhere to slide to or to spin to.
Armco is so close to the edge of the racetrack there. No runoff room at all. And Vic Rice is a big old boy. He's built like a football player. He's a tough driver, so hopefully he's okay. That was a massive impact there, and the 65 car, as you said, Dorsett, literally nowhere to go.
Take another look at this. Watch the lead car, gets loose on his own. Big hit. Nowhere for the 65. I mean, no way could he have done anything.
This is our 9th full course caution, and it was promising and positive to hear Vic on the radio immediately communicating to the team.
Well, unfortunately, this is going to be a lengthy caution because you saw how much impact there was. There's going to be a tremendous amount of cleanup. Lead cars in.
And there's going to be a tremendous amount of activity on pit road, Brian.
Alex Gurney behind the wheel in 99 brings it in. Ian James in the 6 also comes to pit road. This is it. This is the battle for the race right here. Should be routine pit stops, fuel, and tires for all of these cars. Scott Pruitt, interestingly enough, stayed out, as did Max Angelelli. This could be great for Angelelli. Gurney down and away. Ian James in the 6 still sitting still.
Wow, we're looking at the Lexus fuel mileage if we're thinking that Scott Pruitt thinks he can do it the rest of the way. Angelelli is a no-brainer. They pit recently. But for Scott Pruitt to stretch it, there you see Ian James' pit stop taking a lot longer.
Outside, watch outside.
Yeah, 20 laps less fuel than the leader.
Guys, don't forget the Brumos team, the number 58. Remember on that last stop, Mike Colucci said, with some yellow, we can make it to the end.
Yes.
I hope. So they could be in good condition. I don't understand why the 01 didn't come to pit road. They should be within their window.
What about Negri? What about on our lap chart there? How good shape's Negri in?
He was one of the last to pit on lap 128. The last car to pit was Nick Johnson, 76, and the 58 on 129, other than Angelelli, of course, who's obviously on a very different sequence.
Well, here's your situation. You're under 52 minutes to go. The normal yellow flag here to pull somebody out of the gravel has been the average of 5 laps. This is not an average situation. I think it'll probably go 7 laps. It takes 3.5 minutes to make one of those laps, so they're burning the clock down pretty quick.
This is building to a great finish. That mess will be cleaned up soon. We hope that both drivers are okay, and we'll be back. Welcome back, folks. If you're just tuning in, you've tuned in at a great time. We're in the final hour of the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader with you, along with Brian Till and Chris Neville. It's been a long day here at the Glen, but I think the best is yet to come. We've got some interesting strategies playing out. Final hour, less than that, and there are multiple cars in with a chance of winning this race. This is round 6 of the 2007 series. We have had a different winner in every one of the 5 races so far this year. Can we make it 6?
It really depends now on how long this caution goes, doesn't it? I mean, the longer it stays under yellow, the better those guys are up front that didn't pit.
A little bit of confusion as to why the 01, if they were not in the fuel window, didn't pit. For more on that, let's go down to Brian.
Cal, I was a little confused in talking with Tim Keene. He said, no, we can't make it. And then he said, well, we need 3 laps of yellow. And I said, to be in your window. And he said, yeah. So I missed a pit stop in there, obviously. I just went back and checked with him. He said, no, we can make it with 3 laps of yellow. So we should be good to go now. Still going to be a little bit close. They're going to need to take care of it. And during the break, he was talking to Scott Pruitt on the radio. He said, look, we need the points. Angelelli is way back. They're already thinking championship, 8 races to go. He said, look, we're in a good position. If anybody fights you too hard, I know you want to win, but let them go. We need the points.
When they cross the line right here, which is right in front of Scott Pruitt, it will be their 3rd lap under caution so far. Obviously, we saw the cleanup going on. There's going to be at least 2 more laps, if not more than that.
Okay, we'll just save what we can here, Scott, but we're good to the end. I mean, we are good to the end to run full wrench once we get going here.
That's the voice of Tim
just
Keane.
A little conservative, just save what you can under yellow.
If they were not good right now, the pace car has picked up the car that is currently running in 4th position, which is Mark Goossens in the 91 machine. So if they were not good on fuel right now, the L1 car would be in the pits. Because they're staying out, obviously they're confident.
Yeah, and that was the 3rd lap, and we're not done with this caution yet. And he said you can, not only can he make it, but he said you can do it on full rich, which means he can turn the power all the way up.
Problem is tires, Dorsey. Those tires are going to be pretty worn out by the end of this race.
And you have to worry about how much debris did you run through in that crash site. There's 2 cars over there that tore up pretty bad, and there's no way to avoid that.
This is the point to bring up, is that the fascinating thing about sports car racing is you never give up, because on the opening lap of this race, Scott Pruitt was stranded in the gravel trap at the inner loop. Now, with less than an hour to go, he's in the lead of this motor race. Never give up, never say die. You've always got a chance in endurance sports car racing. Chris?
Well, Lee, I was just checking in with the 91 car because they're staying out on the racetrack at this point in time, and it's because the accident happened right in front of Goossens. He didn't get into pit lane, so he got caught up behind the pace car. So they're waiting for the wave by, but also Colin Brown was right behind Goossens. He has already come to pit lane and back out on the racetrack. Now, it's going to be interesting to see, is Colin Brown going to go down a lap because of that choice of coming in early and not taking the wave by? It's a little bit confusing down here, but 2 different teams doing 2 different things.
No, I think Colin Brown's going to be okay, Chris. I think what they did down there, they recognized the fact that the pace car had picked up not the leader, and it was really a freebie for them. As long as they kept ahead of Pruitt, which they've done, they're going to get waved around this pace car here shortly, this whole pack, and they'll pick up the leader, which is Scott Pruitt. So Colin Brown will stay on the lead lap. He's got fuel and he's got fresh tires. He'll have a fast race car. He's just got a lot of track position to make up.
Porsche occupies the top 3 positions in GT. Our last winner, the Pontiac 06 GXPR. Well, we revisit Laguna Seca. That car was penalized for knocking tires on pit road. Guess what? It's happened again. Exiting from a pit stop, it has hit the sister car's wheels on the way out. Here's a look. There is a lone tyre, lone wheel, and Andy Pilgrim behind the wheel of the 06 clips it.
And that is a huge penalty, because when he comes in, after the green gets given, he has to come in and sit for 1 minute.
This is Laguna Seca all over again when it happened to Tim Lewis Jr. And what makes it worse is they were in a top 5 position. That will hurt them after the joys of victory at Lime Rock. Will we see a repeat of 2004, where the CompUSA Chip Ganassi, Lexus Riley of Scott Pruitt, Max Pappas drove all the way to victory lane here at the Glen? A comprehensive victory, and they didn't do it easily. They had to come from some 3 laps down. The thumbs up from Mad Max. And celebrations from Scotty. That was one heck of a drive that day. And familiar territory. The end of the lap, end of the first lap, they have to get helped out of the inner loop gravel trap. And they've been fighting their way back ever since. Of course, teamed with young Mexican Memo Rojas these days. And he had to fight his old teammate Max Pappas on the track. But now the 01 Telmex Ganassi car is in the lead of the race.
Well, what could have been a fuel mileage issue has become a tire issue as 01 Scott Pruitt. You got to understand, is leading the race over the 2nd place car. That was the front row. This is the qualified Gurney on the pole, Pruitt 2nd. But Gurney's got the tires, and Scott's going to put up a heck of a fight.
What about Lexus in serious endurance races? They've won the last 2 Rolex 24s. They won at Miller last year. Now we're into our first serious enduro after the Rolex 24, and they're in the lead of the race. What's up with the 19?
Well, it seems like we thought it was just for fuel, but their car is in there. They're diving down into the cockpit. There may be a battery issue.
Brian?
Yeah, Cal, I was just, I got some raw fuel igniting in the exhaust pipe here, not a big deal, but I saw the crew come by with a battery earlier. Obviously, that was the problem, very similar to what we saw on the 60.
So electrical issues around here. These are all alternator failures more than likely. Guys replacing the batteries to do a quick pit stop.
Does it make a difference, Dorsey, when you're running under caution or not with something like that?
Well, no, not if it's not working at all. But I mean, sometimes it will. If the alternator is failing and you're not doing the RPM, it depends on what it's driving off of too. If it's off the engine or if it's off of a drive shaft or whatever. Right. But the quick fix is to put a battery in and get that done. And you know, it depends on what's happening there. But alternators take a long time to put on.
To add further strength to that Lexus argument, bring into the equation young Mark Wilkins from AIM Autosport. He's running 4th now after Valiente dropped out of the running. So you've got Pruitt, Gurney, Ian James, Mark Wilkins, Oswaldo Negri. Make that 4 Lexus in the top 5 positions. Chris?
Well, Lee just checked in with the Banner group, and it sounds like the 07 once again having voltage problems. So that team has been running most of the day with all of their electrical systems, all the extras, the cool suit, the fans, even our in-car cameras. They've turned all that stuff off. The car was running well for a while, but now that electrical gremlin's starting to rear its ugly head. Like Dorsey said, is this just because we're running under caution? Will it work itself out as soon as the car gets back up to speed? But these guys dealing with some more issues on that 7 car.
Well, there's a lot of electrical appliances that you're talking about, Chris, that are on these cars that can be shut off. You know, the fans for the brakes, the fans for the driver's cooling and whatnot. But if it's a dead alternator, turning those off just makes the battery life longer, but it won't fix the problem.
The problem for Andy Pilgrim, who's the car right behind the 07 and the 06, he's got that penalty, but he can't take that penalty until we go back to green flag racing. You can't serve a penalty under caution.
37 minutes to go in the 6 hours of the Glen, and we've got 13 Daytona prototypes on the lead lap. Who's going to get it? We are back at the Glen. Glad you could be with us. Speed's live and continuing coverage. It's been quite the afternoon of motorsport on Speed. We kicked it off earlier today at 11 o'clock Eastern this morning with the start of this race, and then we had F1 qualifying live from Montreal. Congratulations to young Lewis Hamilton for his first career pole. Super stuff there. Isn't he just having quite the season? And now we're back live all the way to the checkered flag, and we were just about ready to go racing, but the GT leader by accident was waved by, and so therefore to make it right, make a wrong a right, they're going to wave the entire GT field by. So that's exactly what's happening. Brian, what do you have?
Hey, Lee, you're exactly right, but here's the deal. As soon as they were waved by, Cole Scroggum said, well, I'll take that. They told Richard Westbrook to haul butt as fast as he could around the racetrack. He came in, took fuel and new tires, and he got back, and he's in the lead. Now, they waved the rest of the field by, but guess who's going to be in front with new tires and a full tank of fuel?
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's sharp.
That was a great call by the
Very
guys.
sharp, yep.
Well, Cole Scroggum, you may remember the name G&W Motorsports. Well, that's what Synergy is now. So he's been around a long time, a very savvy operator. He's had a lot of good drivers in his cars. The team from, well, they're based at VIR in the grounds of Virginia International Raceway. And the current points leader in the Porsche Super Cup, defending champion, team with Big Steve Johnson. They may just be able to pull off a victory here in GT.
Great story with Richard. Spoke to him the other day, and he won the German Formula 3 championship back in 1996. And then he got out of racing, couldn't make it work, took 6 years off, then got back and had the offer to jump in one of these Porsches. And boy, has he adapted to that. But he's from England, like myself, but he's from Ipswich. I'm from Norwich. We're big rivals in soccer, and we used to call those Ipswich lads binmen. So Richard is a binman.
Chris?
Well, guys, just checked in with TRG because Andy Lally was doing so well at that point in time, and Kevin Buckler saying he feels that Grand Am possibly made him a little bit of a mistake with that wave by on the 81 car and has possibly taken them out of a position where they can go for the win. He feels that that 81 got away by a little bit too late, and since Andy Lally pitted earlier, he's not going to be in a position to hopefully challenge that car.
We're about to find out.
He's going to love the fuel and tires,
Spot
too.
on. We will see. Our policy is to squeeze in the brakes so we can stay with green flag racing. We're going to do that right now. And Porsche occupies the top 3 positions in the GT class at the moment. They completely locked out the podium at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca earlier this year, and they're in good position to do it again. With thanks to our friends at Porsche, we are going all the way to the checkered flag with no more commercial interruptions.
And should they do that win, it'll be the 3rd year in a row that they did so.
That's in the GT category.
This is the calm before the storm, isn't it? The calm before the storm. Who has got what?
This is when you tighten the seat belts up, unplug all the things, throw the mirrors to the side, and let your hair go back.
Well, what does the 10 have? Does Max Angelelli have anything in the SunTrust car? We're about to find that out, and we're about to find out in the coming months whether we will see the teenage son of team principal Wayne Taylor compete in the SunTrust Pontiac Riley. Take a look at this.
There's so many second-generation drivers today. And of course, every father thinks his son's the best. But he certainly got something.
I always feel a lot of pressure, I think, more than other kids my age with that aren't, I guess, second-generation drivers. Having to follow a name, following his footsteps, I feel I have to meet his expectations and everybody else's. So
what we're going to do is just do some downloading and then you're not even going to do a quick map. And you can just tell me what you think. Okay.
You know, when I think of the opportunity he has with our team and, you know, for a 17-year-old kid, it's a lot of pressure. But everything I've seen so far is that he doesn't let that get to him.
He always tells me talent doesn't get you very far. You also have to know the business side and how to be good at racing outside the car, not just in it.
It does come down to the bigger picture and having all the pieces to be not just fast in the car. And I think that's what I can give them more than you know, the other youngsters, is the experience of understanding what it takes other than driving the car.
Well, he makes me go out and find all the sponsorship and race without him paying too much, I guess. But he just tries to let me do most of the sponsorship work on my own, so he thinks that's the best way for me to learn.
Just remember now, you'll probably have more confidence, but you don't need to step up at all. Just learn more about the car. You know, it's quite emotional actually when you see your son get into a car of this level at such a young age. You know, my goal would be to give him enough seat time and make sure everybody around my program is comfortable with him, so that potentially we could put him in the car with us at the 24-hour next year.
I'm happy to sacrifice everything for the racing, so as long as I'm at the track, I'm happy.
Exciting times for that young man, and exciting times here at Watkins Glen. Pruitt leads the field at the restart. Let's take it all the way home. Can Pruitt do it again like he did in 2004?
Big key for Pruitt right now. He stayed on the same tyres. He'll have tyre pickup on the 01 machine. The other boys had fresh rubber. Will they be able to pounce, Dorsey?
And what it made worse than that was when the GT cars were told to go around, these guys had to get offline. Well, offline is where all the rubber pickup is. Scott was complaining, my tires are not good.
What a magic moment for the third place car of Ian James. For years in the Coney Challenge and GT racing, this is what he has yearned for, to race in prototypes at the front with legends like Scott Pruitt. He's in the mix.
Will Gurney be patient enough?
He should have a faster race car. He's had a fast race car all day long, and he's got fresher tires than the leader.
And if to pick up on Scott's tires is enough, he's a sitting duck right now. You see him doing everything he can to take the advantage away, running his car down the middle of the road, so there's no opportunity.
This is where Gurney needs to get on the power early. Can he get better traction off the toe of the boot there? Pruitt's protecting, looking to the inside.
Already defending. Here comes Alex Gurney. Inside, but that's the hard way. Pruitt was not going to let him through that corner that time.
James right behind him on fresh tires as well. Sorry, Dawes.
It's okay. Scott knows he's a sitting duck until these tires come in. He's going to have to block, do everything he can. If he can survive another lap or so, he should be on equal par for a while anyway.
Look at the train behind. Gurney, James, that Al Hadaf car is not on the lead lap. That's in 15th place overall. Mark Wilkins is the next car on the lead lap. Then Angelelli, then Darren Law, then the 77 of Mamo Gidley.
The good news for Angelelli is no penalty this time.
Here we go, turn one inside. Gurney thinks about it. Deep on the brakes, and he takes the lead away from Pruitt.
Boy, got a little twitch right there alongside, gave up the brake pedal and got back after it. Takes the lead, and I think you're going to see that car set sail. See how the car's bottoming again.
See Ian James' car starting to come in as well. Looked like he struggled to get up to speed there on the first couple of laps, these two guys. Dyson Abbott, Pruitt comes back at him. Low downforce on the 01, but that will make him slower on the brakes too.
Absolutely. The low downforce on the 01 gave him top end, but he's got to brake earlier. The 99 has got a lot of downforce. It can go in deep.
Guys, I'm surprised to see Pruitt battling like this. Remember, Tim Keene, during that full course caution, said, look, Scott, we need the championship points. Don't press it to the point of crashing out and losing the points. Angelelli's well back. I'm surprised to see him battling quite this hard.
But if he can pressure Gurney into a mistake, the win could be his, but he's falling back into the clutches of Ian James. As we take you back, the replay, the pass for the lead, turn one. Scraps going on in GT as well. Andy Lally and Westbrook. It is on.
Westbrook in the lead car alongside now. Here comes Andy. He's on the outside of the wrong corner.
First visit, of course, to Watkins Glen for Richard Westbrook. Andy Lally knows this place well. He's won races here. Will that experience pay off?
Well, they're all trying hard now. You see all the smoke in the air, everybody dropping wheels off the outside edge.
This scrap's going to go on all the way to the end.
Giving a good accounting of himself around here.
Well, he knows Porsches, Dorsey. He won the Super Cup championship. A little bit wide there. We're seeing some tire rub. Fresh tires, remember, if those fenders are close.
And don't put it beyond Andy to rough Westbrook up a little bit. Just unsettle him a little.
I think that was tire rub or brake lockup?
I think it was brake lockup. I think he got up in there and just stabbed the brake pedal and got brake lockup, but he did a good job, if that's the case, of keeping it under control.
I thought I noticed maybe some tire rub coming off the toe of the boot. That's why I said that, but you may be spot on. Westbrook feeling the pressure. He's got to get the pressures and temps up.
Cal TRG is back in a position where they can fight for it because of that wave by before we went back to green. But the problem, Kevin Buckler said, is Westbrook got that free pit stop, so he got fuel and tires. When Andy Lally came in, he didn't want to give up track position, and he only got fuel. So Westbrook on brand new tires, Andy Lally on old tires.
That should show itself the further it goes green. Right now, Westbrook blocking a little bit, not really a block, defensive posture for sure.
Who's driving the car?
Westbrook. What did I say that time?
I don't know.
Well, I meant Westbrook.
Look at this, Andy's got him, has he? This is good time racing. 21.5 minutes to go of a 6-hour race, and the lead for GT has come down to this. Fabulous performance from these two Porsche teams.
Seems like Westbrook.
Oh, trouble. Westbrook was in trouble going down the hill.
Locked up again, just like he did, heading through turn 10.
That was a massive save, Calvin.
Yeah.
To get it wrong down there is not usually a forgivable instance.
I think when you're driving the same type of race car week in, week out, Dorsey, you're able to drive it on the edge. You know what to do when you get it a little bit out of shape. But Westbrook is having to defend on the straightaways. He's either doesn't have the motor of Andy Lally or he's got a lot more downforce in the back end of that Porsche with that wing angle.
Of course, Andy's seen both those brake lockups by now, and he says, okay, then I'm going to run you hard everywhere we go from now on.
Exactly. Up front, it is still Alex Gurney. The lead, less than 1 second. Over Pruitt, over James. Angelelli has got Mark Wilkins. So Angelelli has gained a position. He's now up into fourth. Wilkins is 5th, Law is 6th, and Bergmeister has moved up into 7th ahead of Gidley. To the pits.
Steve Johnson watching Richard Westbrook. Oh, great battle right now, Steve, and a little luck went into it, obviously, but we're seeing some tire rubber. You guys running a lot of downforce in that 81 car?
No, it's okay. It really is fine. Westy's doing a great job. You know, Andy's one of the great sports car drivers on the planet, and to hold him off is just fabulous. I just hope he can do it for about 25 more minutes.
What would a win mean to you and to this team?
It's huge. It's so huge. You know, it's just for the first podium ever in Grand Am to be a win would just, I don't know. I don't think everybody in this whole pit could hold me down.
And he's a big guy.
Yeah, that would take some holding down for sure. Westbrook has still got it, but you have to look at Andy Lally, the over and under. He's got it this time.
That beautiful. Just absolutely masterful setup right there, Calvin.
He tried it a lap before, and it didn't quite work. He wasn't quite close enough, but he got Westbrook there convincingly.
Superb, just timed it, just really trimmed almost like the rear bumper paint off of Richard Westbrook as he cut down to the inside after the inner loop.
Dirk Werner, co-championship leader, is the next car in the picture, and the sister Farnbacher Olds car is behind the wall. The 85 is out of the mix.
This is the pass again. Take a look. As you see Andy Lally positioning, posturing. He's getting the car in the position he wants to. Pass not going to be either going to go in the inner loop. He's going to force him to have a lot of speed. Now watch. Richard gets a little bit wide here. Andy knows it, cuts down underneath him right there, perfectly done. Richard with so much speed on couldn't hold the inside line for that. And I talked to him the other day. He's never raced here before. He goes, this might be the best racetrack I've ever driven my entire life.
And these two boxing each other's ears has helped Dirk Werner get up into the mix. So Werner is vying for another podium, maybe even another win, while the guys that he's tied with in the championship sit in pit lane. Sylvain Tremblay and Nick Ham are out of this one, and Werner is poised to perhaps get more big championship points. The battles go all the way deep into the field. This is Bergmeister, this is Werner on the inside of Westbrook from 3rd to 2nd.
Westbrook just looks to be a bit of a Werner defends there pretty aggressively as Westbrook got a better jump off the first turn there. But down the straightaways, this 81 machine does not seem to have the poke dorsey of the other Porsches.
No, I agree with you, Calvin. He's good getting in the corners, but he's really lacking on his straight line speed right now.
Up front, Alex Gurney boasts a 2-second lead over Pruitt. Ian James holds on to 3rd. The 76 of Nick Jonsson is having a good scrap with Jörg Bergmeister, Mark Goossens, and he's now ahead of both of those guys.
And they both got by the 23 as well in that fight that they've had amongst themselves.
There's a drive shaft issue with the 85. So the rundown is Gurney, Pruitt, James, Angelelli, Wilkins, Law, and then Nick Jonsson.
Goossens is on fire. He was, in fact, ahead of this green car of Colin Brown on the restart. Look how many positions he's made up on young Colin.
He's got the freshest tires in the field. He made a real late stop. They put those tires on, so, I mean, he's sitting on fresh rubber.
Valiante's not giving up either. He's on the border of breaking into the top 10. Good scraps. 17.5 minutes to go. But can anybody catch Gurney? He's just put another half second on Pruitt that last lap around. Let's take a look at the points, the current points, if the race were to finish now. Pruitt would lead Angelelli by 9 points. And Werner would lead by 11, not over Tremblay and Ham, but over Edwards and Collins. How about that? How things can turn around very quickly in one round of the championship.
Look at Colin Brown. He's really working over Mamo Gidley, who's having a tremendous run here today.
That Doran, like I said, that Doran team does really good at this racetrack, but Mamo Gidley, it's good to see that car running well.
On board with Angelelli, this is for 3rd. Ian James is in the hot seat now.
Traffic in the way up ahead. We'll see what plays out with that.
Ian got balked there a little bit, but with this short squirt on the next corner, Max is not able to take advantage of it. Max needs to be patient. He's got to think big picture as well. They've recovered well. They're back in the game, running 4th. It could have been a disaster here today with 2 penalties. Question of what might have been, but don't make it worse.
Running a lot of downforce, Cal, and that should give him the advantage in the brake zone right here.
Oh, Ian's going to be a sitting duck, I think, here coming off turn 1. There you go.
Ian got too much speed in. He couldn't keep the car low. Now side by side.
Ian went in very shallow to turn 1. That just ran him wide on the exit. Easy pass for Max.
Can't argue with that. We're inside 10 laps from home, and that helps Angelelli's championship position. He wants to shadow Scott Pruitt to the line and try and minimise the damage in terms of championship points. 2 penalties today that didn't need to be for the SunTrust team. It has hurt them again. So after a super consistent start to the season where they had 4 consecutive podiums, including a race victory at VIR, the last 2 rounds have hurt them. But in saying that, Angelelli is in the top 3 right now. Goosen's on the inside of Law.
Nice job there. Mark Goosen stuffs it down the inside of turn 7.
Law is dropping back a little bit here quickly in the last lap or so. He had a lot more track position than he's currently looking at right now. Nick Johnson has gained several positions since the last lap, so he's skiving his way through the field. They made a really good call on Nick to bring him in late under a previous caution period.
Mark Goosen, who's very excited about an upcoming test at VIR and NASCAR's car of tomorrow. It's coming up in the next few weeks, I believe. So he's thrilled about that. Disappointed not to be racing at Le Mans next weekend, but he's very focused on getting his teeth into some kind of a NASCAR program. And he is poised here to put the Riley Matthews machine into the top 5 and the best result of that car of the season for that car. Back to GT and Werner and Lally. This will be a great stoush.
I was about to say the same thing. Once Werner closes the gap, gets up on the back of Andy, which is happening now, this will be a real fight. 2 really great Porsche drivers with really nearly equal cars, I would think.
I have to say that Dirk Werner has really been the sensation of this season. We didn't know much about him until we saw him early in the year, and boy, he performs week in and week out. Great young driver.
You know, Cal, when you look at the driving that Andy Lally has been doing this year, even at the last race, Lime Rock, he was in position to hopefully take the victory there, but he had, once again, a penalty like a lot of other GT teams where they nudged that tire coming out of pit lane, taking that 1-minute penalty, and at Lime Rock, he just got hurt so bad that it dropped him back. But right there, he was in contention this week, once again, able to push that car up to the front, get it in the lead, and hopefully grab their 2nd win of the year.
He's doing a great job, Chris, as he always does, but I think he's really got his work cut out to hang on to this one. Werner is on a mission here. Just under 13 minutes to go.
The defending GT Series champion, Andy Lally, has won the fall event. But can he notch up a GT win in the 6 hour, the big one? Westbrook coming under increasing pressure from the 07 of Paul Edwards, who again has driven a very, very good race and extremely fast in that GXPR.
He's been sensational. He was great at Lime Rock. They had some bad breaks there, some bad breaks too today with that cut-down tire, then the penalty for the aggressive move that
could have been avoided.
It could have been on the 69 machine coming through that final corner. So Paul Edwards would like to get it back on the podium, but he wants to win a race. He saw the sister car win at Lime Rock, Kelly Collins, and he want to see victory circle as well.
This is for 3rd spot. This would be for yet another podium in the 07 and keep their extremely consistent run going of grabbing those championship points, and they should be in 2nd in the championship at the end of today if things remain as is for another 11 3/4 minutes.
Now, the Pontiac has the potential with Paul Edwards there. I mean, no question. You see right now Goosen's picking up another position.
But that's not for position, though.
No, it's picking up another
spot. But he did get Mark Wilkins in that car further back, so that was for position. So Goosen's is now in the top 5.
And you got By Arberlin, who's running pretty hard right now. But back to Paul Edwards. I mean, everything they have is there, except they're lacking a little bit of luck right now. And some of it's self-inflicted wounds, but not all of it. He's had some 2 rough races as far as things go.
Another guy's having a great run here today is Nick Johnson, currently in 5th. They won here back in 05, he and Tracy Crone, so they're very comfortable on this racetrack. Tracy's done a great job here today to keep the car in the mix.
He's been incredibly busy with his business commitments, flying literally all over the world, and of course the Le Mans test day last weekend. Valiente on Bergmeister, slick move, lovely.
Fresher tires, I think, is the story there once again.
And remember, Bergmeister, we heard, is driving with no power steering, so I'm sure he's not at 100% efficiency. These cars without power steering are just impossibly hard, difficult to steer.
That was for 9th, the move on Bergmeister by Valiente. He's got the 58 of Darren Law up ahead to snatch 8th.
Surprised with the 58 machine. They seem to have lost a little bit of pace here at the end of this one. Remember, they'd led today, looked to be a little bit stronger than the position they're currently in.
Calvin just checked in with Mike Colucci on the 58. Such a shame to see that car dropping back. Remember, it led with in the hands of David Donahue early on, but this last hour has been a literal war on the racetrack. He said all the beating and banging has gotten that car so far out of alignment. There's so much toe out in the front. The car just won't turn. Way too much understeer. Steering wheel's not even straight anymore.
It's not going to help down this long straightaway either, Dorsey, if it's that bad with scrub.
No, it won't help at all. And, you know, without... Here's a run. Here's a good run. Got him in brake zone.
Well, speaking of Nick Johnson in the 76, he's poised to get that car's best result of the season for he and team principal Tracy Crone.
There you go again. Putting the jinx out there.
That's not the jinx. He'll get there. Here it is.
Boy, has this young man been busy lately. Nick Johnson was over in Le Mans last week for the test. He and the boys will leave here following this race. He, Colin Brown, and Tracy Crone on a Risi Competizione Ferrari 430 there. They will definitely be a factor at Le Mans in the GT2 category next week.
He'll be flattered you called him young.
Well, he's about the same age as me, mate.
He's not that old, is he?
No, he's not.
There's the Doncaster Porsche. We haven't seen much of it today. Regular driver Dave Lacey misses his second race meeting in a row. He's not in there. And we welcome Bobby Julian back to the Rolex Series. He's in there with Tom Papadopoulos and regular driver Greg Wilkins. There's first to second. Gurney to Pruitt. That's what 2.4 seconds looks like.
Plus 6 seconds to the 10 car. Plus 6.
Well, I think that Gurney is mirror driving now. There's no need for him to go out there and run way out in front with this little time left. He's got the car. Scott Pruitt back behind him doing all he can to catch up, but the 99's been untouchable.
Great job by Scotty Pruitt here today. Remember, those tires have a lot of laps on them, and to keep the car where he's kept it is just really a testimony to what Scott Pruitt is all about. Great experience, extremely fast, just gets the job done every weekend.
Valiente has got by Darren Law, incidentally. So Valiente is up into 8th position. Mark Wilkins is the next one on his list. It's Gurney, Pruitt, Angelelli, James, Johnson, Goosen, Wilkins, Valiente, Law, and Bergmeister. That's the top 10.
Tell you who's going to be disappointed today is Max Pappas and Colin Brown, currently running down in 12th. Things just didn't seem to work out their way. They're kind of hovering there for a long spell and are running just inside the top 5. Never got the lead, but they'll be bitterly disappointed they didn't make hay in the championship chase today.
Well, particularly when the sister car's in 5th. Good train of cars here, all fighting for position. Valiente trying to get by Matt Al-Haladef, who's in 15th, not on the lead lap. The top 14 are. That's a tremendous effort to have 14 cars on the lead lap at the end of 6 hours of racing. On board with Oswaldo Negri. Look at this, and it's a big move from Oz.
Beautiful.
Can he get it turned, though?
Can he hold it?
Yes, he did. Great move. He set that up because there was a lapped car that was being dealt with.
Colin Brown got blocked to the outside there, and Oz took advantage of it.
So he moves up to 12th. Maymo Gidley's the next one on his list. There's Maymo up ahead. And the Kodak Doran. In GT, it's Paul Edwards and Richard Westbrook, and he gets it. That was for 3rd. The Pontiac is on the podium again.
Does he have anything for the lead as time is winding down? It's taken him a few laps to get by Westbrook. I think he has a fast race car, but time is running out. There's Angelelli, currently 3rd place in DP.
Angelelli has reduced the deficit too between he and Scott Pruitt. Here's the replay. Look to the left of your screen. Watch Oswaldo Negri in the 60.
Everybody looking at everybody else, so they don't know that Ozzy's coming up the middle.
Well, I think maybe Joao saw Ozzy and didn't see Colin to the outside, so he saw that bright orange machine, and sometimes the color works out for you. He didn't see the lime green chrome machine to the outside.
This car is flying at the moment. Angelelli is going all out to try and get Pruitt in these closing laps.
He's only got 6 minutes to get it done if he's going to. There's Scott right there.
About 4 seconds behind Scott Pruitt, so Scott will have the hammer down, and Timmy Keane will be on the radio.
Yeah, there's Max. So by the time Pruitt gets around these 2 GT cars, right there, he's mired between 3 GT cars. They're going to hold him up. That's the leaders in GT. They didn't hold him up that much. And right behind him, here comes Max.
Swings by Andy Lally. So that was clean. Angelelli was about 0.6 of a second faster than Pruitt on the last lap around, but he needs to get through this traffic efficiently to stand a chance.
Well, now Max can see Scott. I mean, there's a couple cars between him, but he can clearly see that that is his rival up ahead.
Look at those lap times from Angelelli.
Got the hammer down, that's for sure.
Now watch how he takes care of this Porsche. He doesn't want to be blocked going up these S's.
It's Dirk Werner, the GT Championship leader.
He's timing it out. He's lifting right now so he can get the run. Here he can go full throttle right there. Now he'll whistle by.
Werner does an excellent job of staying wide, allowing him up the inside. Does Andy Lally hang out to the inner loop? I think he's too far up.
What a job by Andy Lally.
Yeah, man.
For his driving machine.
Now that definitely hurt Max Angelelli. I mean, Pruitt got away a little bit on that.
Yep.
But he did what he had to do. I mean, he timed it. He lifted off the throttle and got the cars fast the way he needed to.
Talk about the traffic, Dorsey. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes against you. You've got to take the good with the bad.
Amen. See how much it costs him. Scott's out of the picture. Here comes Max.
Well, Shorty, I hate to give you credit, but you did say that the 99 would be the first repeat winner.
Well, that was an easy pick, looking at their speed all weekend long. They just need to. I mean, I think they're one of those teams, Dorsey, right now. If they can get a couple of wins, they could be almost unstoppable. And they roll off the truck. They are just playing fast everywhere.
Every team I've talked to says the same thing. If these guys get their race together and can run the speeds that they run, we are in big trouble. Well, it's happening.
Well, they have done. And you've got to give a lot of credit not only to the drivers and the guidance of Bob Stallings, but Kyle Brannan, the chief engineer on the team.
Nice job, buddy.
Plenty of encouragement. They know that they are almost home. 3.5 minutes to go, and it will be the second victory of the year to the Bob Stallings Gainscote Pontiac team.
Plus, he's -4 behind you, Alex. You're in good shape.
Dan Gurney will be at home on the couch watching this with a big smile on his face. Quite interested in his son's racing. I mean, he enjoys these races. They're good races.
Look at this. This is for a top 10 for Oswaldo Negri. To have both Mike Shank cars in the 10. Gidley won't let him go by easily. He'll fight for this position.
It's a posturing right there. He wasn't near enough, close enough to make the pass.
Just shows you the depth of the field when you got Ozzie Negri and Memo Gidley battling for a top 10 position after 6 hours almost.
This is good.
Here he comes.
This is good.
Here he comes.
To the inner loop, but he's not close enough.
Makes you want to be back in the driver's seat, doesn't it, Dawes?
Yeah, just for a couple minutes, though.
Take over for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, the last 5 minutes I could do that.
Yeah.
The other 5 hours and 55, I'd like to sit back and watch.
GT, it's still Andy Lally, Dirk Werner, Paul Edwards. Westbrook is 4th, and Jean-Francois Dumoulin is in the top 5.
And look at all these cars.
Darren Law's defending from York Bergmeister. He doesn't want to give that position up. Memo Gidley doesn't want to give 10th up to Oz Negri.
Here it is. Here's the run.
Is he going to go for it?
Nemo knows he goes to the inside.
Yeah.
It's a big what-if day for Mark Patterson and Oswaldo. Those battery problems that plagued them, they were right in the mix, just like Ian James, who maintains his 4th position. They will be shown the white flag this time by one more lap here at Watkins Glen.
Slow car in the middle right here. Watch him make this. Sure, no trouble here. Okay, everybody around that cleanly.
See these cars wagging their tail. No traction control, of course, this year. Makes these cars a little trickier to drive when the tires are at the end of their cycle.
Oh, this could get ugly up front.
Bergmeister takes a look at fellow Porsche driver Darren Law. Didn't work that time round. Gurney boasts a 3.8 second lead as they're working their way towards the white flag.
We did not get the white flag like we thought we might, so it's going to go next time by. We'll get the white.
That was not for position. Joao Barbosa was a lap down on these guys, but he got a fast race car. He said, I'm going to go and have some fun too. Join the party.
I'm going to show them.
Or he said, looks like there's going to be a big wreck in front of me. I think I better get around here.
And I heard a little whisper this weekend, you may get used to seeing Joao Barbosa as a Brumos driver. I'll give you that little hint for seasons to come.
It's done a great job for him when they plugged him in. There's no doubt about that.
So our storyline at the top of the show of 6 winners from 6 races, it's not going to pan out that way, much to the delight of the Bob Stallings crew. This car has been the car all weekend. A slight hiccup from Alex Gurney in his opening stint where he ran through the inner loop.
Okay, Alex,
one to go. With grass, but they cleared that out, and he and John Fogarty have done a sterling job. The white flag flies. They're on their way home.
There, of course, is Scott Pruitt in second. You saw behind him Max the Axe trying to run down Scott Pruitt, but he only has one time to get it done.
He does, and Scott will extend his championship lead over Max Angelelli just a little bit, but as so often we've seen in Rolex racing, the 01 versus the 10 car for the championship. Looks like a similar story this year, but there's a lot more guys who may get back up into that chase, and one is the 99 machine if they can keep performing like they've done today, Dorsey.
Yeah, don't count the 99 out. If they can just get these back-to-back wins like they're, get the thing going. Look at this, side by side.
Good slick move there from Jörg Bergmeister. Barbosa's lining up for a shot as well. They're all mixing it up.
Yeah, I think
Darren struggled a little bit here in the final stint. The car has been beaten up, as Mike Colucci said, and this will be disappointing for Darren. So he knows that they had a strong race car here today, but just all the argy-bargy, as we call it, during the earlier laps have taken its toll on the 58 Brumos machine. That would have been a great story today to have seen that car on the podium.
That's Andy Lally leading in GT that these guys are whistling around. Andy's fully cognizant that they're coming. He knows that he's got it won. He's not going to let himself get in any kind of trouble here on the last time around.
Do you think Dirk Werner was thinking big picture, Lee, in terms of the championship, or is he too young to be thinking that way?
Yeah, he's a bit of a fiery driver, but I mean, he's shown his skill level throughout this year's Rolex series, and it is impressive. Pontiac is poised to return to victory lane. Second win of the season. They do it. Bob Stallings, Gainsco Racing, John Fogarty and Alex Gurney. What a combination this weekend. It has been the combination. First repeat winner of 2007. The Gainsco gang do it.
They deserved it.
Superb performance. And Bob Stallings, the team principal, standing by.
Lee, that's right. The first repeat winner of this year. Bob, it seemed like the message to the team this weekend was control the unforced errors. You had that small one early on with the grass and the radiator, but other than that, it was a perfect weekend.
It really was. First I want to say hi to all my grandkids out there. Thanks to Gainsco Auto for making this happen for us. We ran almost a flawless race the whole weekend. Alex had a GT car in front of him. That's why he went off. But it's been an absolutely super weekend for us.
Well, this team has been so fast this season. We knew they'd be back in victory lane very soon.
Well, they had a great debut here a couple of years ago, but coming into their third full season in Rolex racing, the mantra for this year was eliminate the errors. We know we're good enough to win. Let's go out and win. And they've got more wins than anybody else.
Just sensational. I mean, you cannot believe the pace of this race car. I'm sure the rest of the paddock is scratching their heads right now thinking, boy, have we got some work to do to get on these guys' pace.
You see Scott Pruitt there trying to come alongside and say, oh, you're the man, you guys are good.
But smart race and a gutsy performance from Pruitt and a super win for Andy Lally. He gets his second, along with RJ Valentine and Spencer Pumpelly. Great performance. That puts those guys in the championship mix. And the young German behind Andy, Dirk Werner, is now the outright GT championship leader. On June 20, Unique Whips features Pam Anderson. Of course, she's known for getting things fired up, but what will happen when she asks Will and his crew to turn her Airstream into a love stream? Find out on Unique Whips. Could be the best episode yet. June 20. We're back here at the Glen. It's time to celebrate. Let's go down to victory lane.
Alex Gurney climbing out of the 99, standing here with John Fogarty. Alex, you did the work at the end of the race. This one wasn't a flawless weekend. We talked about no mistakes. There were a couple, but it ends up good. How difficult was it?
Extremely. You know, it was a long race. It looked like the only mistake was mine at the start of the race. You know, just misjudged the deal with a GT car. I would have thought, being the leader, that he would move out of the way. But anyways, we came back. You know, John drove an awesome stint, got to the front, and had a nice little duel with Pruitt there at the end. And I think we just had too much for him. So great day for everyone at Gainesco. It's awesome.
Well, second win for you guys, and first repeat winners in 2007. John, for you, did you come in here thinking that you could claw your way back in the championship? You were 33 points away on the way in, but you've definitely moved up.
Absolutely. You know, the Gainesco Auto Insurance team just never gives up. I for sure thought we could win this one. I think we should have won Laguna, and we really wanted to get one back. So we had a great car. Kyle Brandon, our engineer, gave us something to work with this weekend, and it was pretty special to drive. So excellent job for the whole crew. You know, they really put their heads down. We got it done, battled back during that race, and fantastic result.
Congratulations, guys. First repeat winners in 2007.
When they get on the podium, they just win. No seconds or thirds, just wins for Gurney and Fogarty. As we take a snapshot of the results for you there. Good effort from James and Pugh to be in the top 5. And what about Nick Johnson and Tracy Crone? That will be a little bit of sugar for those guys after some hard work of late, clawing their way up into the top 5. And we get back into the gang where perhaps it's a case of what could have been, particularly for the 39 of Bricks, Fittipaldi and Garcia. They were running on race pace at the front previously, so a frustrating day for those guys. Chris, tell us about Scott Pruitt.
Well, Scott Pruitt had those problems on the opening lap, but typical Scott Pruitt fashion, you work your way back up into the podium. You just didn't have anything for the 99 machine?
Hi to my family at home. You know, we were the second best car here today. The Telmex car ran great. Mimo did a great job. The Ganassi guys, I mean, we had a cut tire. Obviously, we had that issue with the start, got parked in the gravel, went a lap down, and just kept fighting. But I think that's our strong point from the Ganassi side, is that, you know, we never give up. We dig down and came home with a good, strong finish and still have the points lead.
Mamo, this was your first 6 hours at the Glen. When you saw Scott go off and go down those laps in the beginning, what did you think?
Well, obviously, it was not the best scenario to begin with, but, you know, like Scott said, the Ganassi team, they never give up, and we're in a mentality where we're just going to keep pushing until the end, and we knew we had a shot if we had a fast car, and we kept the car on the road. We had our problems afterwards, but everything worked out for us. I'm happy. Congratulations to the 99 car. They deserve it. They did a good job all weekend.
Well, the Telmex team puts a couple more points on that 10 car.
Did you see the wry smile on Scott Pruitt's face? The reason why? It's small, but it's he's eked out another 2 points over Max Angelelli. Rojas, of course, there, because he didn't drive with Pruitt at the 24-hour. He's third by himself. And then here comes the Gainesco juggernaut. Gurney and Fogarty have moved into the top 5, 30 points out of the championship lead. Pretty impressive stuff. And Brown and Pappas are still hanging in there. Brian?
Jonathan Cochet, Max Angelelli, great run for you guys. Great first run for you with the team, Jonathan. But Max, for you, the championship. There at the end, when you have Scott in your sights, how bad did you want that? How bad did you want to claw back to the top of the championship?
What can I say? I was frustrating. Every time get back to the lead, and they use my axe on my neck, you know, the other way around. And they cut my head off a couple of times. That's tough, you know.
But you claw your way back. The penalties, obviously, on these restarts, something that need to be made a little bit clearer to you guys. Obviously, you didn't see it the way the officials did. How difficult was it to fight back from that?
Well, it's extremely difficult because of the frustration, the anger you have, and this team deserved the win here at the Glen, and it's a shame I couldn't provide a win for them.
Dorsey was saying he wanted to see the blood pressure gauge as well as the oil pressure gauge in the car. How high was it?
Was skyrocketing.
Skyrocketing, guys. But still, Max Angelelli laughing, joking around at the end of it. He wants that championship. Not happy with the results, but still happy to be clawing his way back, staying close in the championship, guys.
Yeah, and that's something that he and Scott Pruitt know all too well. They know how to do it. That this is a 14-round championship. You've got to hang tough for the entire season. We'll wrap things up when we come back. We're back at the Glen in upstate New York to wrap things up from round 6 of the Rolex series. Not only a dual winner in Daytona prototypes, a dual winner in the GT class. Chris, I know these guys will be thrilled.
A lot of times we say Andy Lally is one of the best young sports car drivers in the business, and today, once again, he proves us right. Andy, you were fighting with a couple other cars out there that had new tires while you had old tires, and you kept them off you.
We took the gamble to stay on the tires that we had because the balance was really good. I can't thank my teammates enough and this team, Lars for setting this thing up. All these guys, Kevin and the whole TRG team, the crew was awesome today. I want to say hi and get well, Rach, at home. I'm thinking of you, sweetie. And I got to thank the CRG Porsche. I just can't say enough about these guys and what they've done and the car that they give me to let me show off and the great job that my teammates did today as well. So it was just super.
Spencer, you're kind of one of the super subs in the series. You're a lot of times moving around from car to car. Today, what kind of pressure were you feeling to perform for these guys?
Oh, TRG puts together such a good car that it's not that tough. The pressure's not there because, you're going to have a great car and you got great teammates like Andy and RJ. So, no, it was great,
RJ, a lot of times you make that tough decision to step out, let the young guys do the dirty work, but today pay it off.
Oh, big time, big time. It's my birthday tomorrow. I'll be 63 years old, and they gave me the best present I could ever get.
Good job, guys.
Papa Bear RJ and his 2 kids. What a day. Thrilling performance. Well done to Dirk Werner and Bryce Miller and Craig Stantwell, although Craig drove in the 85. Super performance from Farnbacher Lowles. That helps them in the championship chase. And the Edwards-Collins steamroller of consistency keeps on going every single race in the top 10. And we should make special mention there of Steve Johnson and Richard Westbrook. That is that car's best performance of the 2007 season. Let's talk more about the Pontiac boys.
Down at Farnbacher Lowles, Craig Stanton, Bryce Miller, Dirk Werner. Great run for you guys up to second place. But Dirk, for you, the championship implications. With the 70 car out, did you drive as hard as you could or did you just take the points? Were you going for the win or are you going for the championship?
Yeah, in the end I was going for the win, of course, because I could catch up pretty fast to Andy. But then it was clear that I couldn't overtake him because his car was nearly the same. And then you miss the arrow just in the fast corners. And Watkins Glen is a fast track. But for us, it went well. I mean, we were in front of the 2 cars we compete in the championship. And I think with these 2 guys here, with Bryce and Craig, we have a good chance to win it.
Well, you can see that Bryce and Dirk didn't shave this weekend. They think that's their good luck charm. Unfortunately, Craig did, so maybe that's why they finished second. Lee?
Tell you what, Farnbacher Lowles in 2007 is a very impressive team. They take the outright lead in the championship with Dirk Werner. Collins, Edwards just 11 back, but the big point to take from that screen there is Sylvain Tremblay, Nick Ham. They drop 23 points further back from Bryce Miller, Edwards, Collins. It's tough work from here on in. More from pit lane.
Some tough work definitely by the Banner guys. Paul, you had a little bit of contact there late in the race. You had to do that drive-through penalty, and then you had the voltage problem all day long, but you filled out the podium.
Yeah, the voltage problem was, a tough thing to deal with. We couldn't use the cool suit or the drink bottle and radio communication. Every time Chuck came on the radio, the yellow light came on. So, we were kind of cutting ourselves from all of our luxuries in the car. But, the Pontiac GXP here came through. I mean, the guys just pulled through on all the little problems we had. And then once again, I was driving a bit desperate out there because of all our stuff. And I got a little bit overeager trying to pass the Mazda. And we made contact. And I got the penalty I deserved. And luckily we were able to get another yellow to get back to the back end of the field and get a podium out of it.
Well, they got that podium out of it, and once again, they're the only GT team to be finishing in the top 5 in all the events this year. Consistency's paying off. Lee?
Very impressive performance. So, too, it was for the SunTrust Improve Your Position Award winners. We congratulate the Doran boys of Mamo Gidley and Guy Cosmo making up 8 positions from their starting spot. And for the 4th time this year, Andy Lally and RJ Valentine, and of course today Spencer Pumpelly, get it after where they started, making up 21 positions to get that SunTrust Award yet again. Well done. We certainly hope you enjoyed the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. The Rolex Series returns in just 2 weeks' time at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We look forward to that. But it's a big time for sports cars. Le Mans, the big one, next weekend. On behalf of the entire Speed crew, we hope you enjoyed the 6 hours. It was, again, a classic sports car race.